It's the Mixed Martial Arts Hour with
The Mixed Martial Arts Hour back in your life. Oh, my chair just fell down. There we go. On this Monday, January 4th, 2016. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ariel Helwani. Welcome back. We missed you. I missed you. We haven't done one of these in 3 weeks, and what a stretch it has been. The world of mixed martial arts, another crazy, wild, exciting, exhilarating stretch. When we last said goodbye, we were on the heels of UFC 194 and that epic weekend in Las Vegas. We were getting ready for UFC on Fox in Orlando, and what a show that was. Wow. Rafael dos Anjos defeating Donald Cerrone in a matter of seconds, I think 66 seconds. Of course, since then, we've come to find out that Cerrone's returning next month as a welterweight to fight Tim Means. So much happens when you take time off in this sport. Nate Diaz putting on a show during his fight, after his fight, calling out Conor McGregor, getting censored all over the place on Fox. Alistair Overeem coming into that fight, as we found out a few days before it, against JDS, is a free agent, winning via knockout, ending that rivalry, at least for now. So that was a lot of fun. Then we had Ryzen with their debut show in Japan. Some good, some bad. The good, I thought, King Mo's tournament victory. Chrome Gracie, those some fun things. Even the Gabby Garcia fight was kind of good in a weird way. And the bad, obviously, was Sakuraba getting mauled. The Fedor fight, to me, was like, I get why people wanted to see it, but it was uninteresting, to say the least. And by the way, who's the one that reported Jaideep Singh back in October and no one believed? Oh, yeah. I had no interest in that whatsoever. Hopefully they get him a more... Hey, look, I'm not going to hate Fedor for it. Take the money if you're going to fight, essentially a 1-0, because he was really 1-0 in my opinion. They gave him that fight on 3 days' notice to become 2-0 and become the deep champion. If you're going to fight a 1-0 guy for the same amount of money as an accomplished guy, do it. But, Ryzen should... If they're going to be a credible promotion, put together a better opponent for Fedor in his next fight. We'll see what happens there. And then, of course, UFC 195. I don't know if I could say it's the greatest title fight I've ever seen. I don't know if I could say it's the greatest welterweight title fight I've ever seen, but I think I am confident in saying it was the greatest fifth round of a title fight that I have ever seen. That fifth round between Robbie Lawler and Carlos Condit, if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and watch it. It's a super close fight. It's not a robbery. It comes down essentially to one round, that third round, and people are split, maybe a little more in favor of Carlos. It's somewhat heartbreaking when you hear him afterwards talk about potentially retiring after this fight. So close to becoming champion. But what can you say about Robbie Lawler at this point? It seems like he gets better as the fight goes on each and every time, and it's just impossible to break this guy. It's impossible to break the new Robbie Lawler. The welterweight Robbie Lawler is virtually unbreakable at this point. And what's next for him? Of course, there's a lot to talk about there. So much to get to on this show. UFC 195, in a nutshell, reminded me why this is such a special sport to be a fan of and to cover, because it didn't have the pomp and circumstance of 194. It didn't have the buzz of a 194. But if you look at the emotion, the victories, the performances, the losses, I mean, it just had it all. And it reminds you that, here we are in the dead of winter. NBA season, it kind of goes through the motions. Even the NFL season to a degree as well. NHL, same deal. You see it in baseball, soccer, and all the sports. There's a lull in the schedule, and while MMA and in the UFC in particular, they don't have an off season. Every single fight means the world to these guys. Look at that emotion that came out of Stipe Miocic after that victory. Look at the emotion following the Condit Lawler fight. You'll never see the emotion that you see in Game 65 of the regular season between the Bucks and Sixers. That's emotionless. You'll never see that in MMA. It's never mundane. This event had nothing to do with Boston, has nothing to do with Newark, has nothing to do with London coming up, and that's what makes it so special. So we can complain about so many events being back-to-back, and I feel like I've kind of gone on this rant before, but it just reminds you, man, it's just such a beautiful sport when it all comes together and men and women rise to the occasion. And that's what we saw Saturday night in Las Vegas. All right, what are we getting to today on the show? This is one of my favorite shows of the year, by the way. This is our award show We're recapping the entire year. We have 22 awards to give out. It's going to be New York Rick and I. We're going to be doing that in the back end of the show, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Maybe our best award show yet. I think we've been doing this for 3-4 years now, so I can't wait to get to that. In addition to our award show, we're going to be talking to Mark Ramundi of MMAfighting.com. We'll recap UFC 195 at around 2:15. We're going to talk to Holly Holm, the UFC bantamweight champion for the women's division. She may have won a couple awards. It's kind of funny. Last year we had the male fighter of the year, Robbie Lawler, on. Is she our female fighter of the year? We'll find out. Around 1:25, we'll talk to Tyron Woodley. He was a very interesting observer, I should say interested observer, on Saturday at the Fox Studios because he wants to fight the winner of Lawler Condit, and that's Robbie Lawler. Does he get that opportunity? We'll find out. But first, let us go to the phone lines and welcome in a man who had a very big 2015. Just a few weeks ago, we were in Las Vegas and saw him rise to the occasion with perhaps his best performance yet, his best victory yet, a knockout win over Chad Mendes. They all said it couldn't be done. He did it. He's Frankie Edgar. He's the number one contender in the UFC's featherweight division. He joins us on the phone right now. Frankie, how are you?
I'm good, man. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too. Would you say 2015 was your best year yet? Is that a little too crazy because you've been a champion in other years? What do you think?
I don't know. I feel like the cream is rising to the top. That's for sure. So, things are going upwards. That's all I know, and I'm happy with my past year for sure.
So there's a lot to get to talk to you about here, but actually I want to start a little bit out of left field because your second fight against Gray Maynard at UFC 125 was 5 years and 1 day. I'm going to botch this, prior to UFC 195. Does that make sense? It was January 1st of 2000 and what was it? 2011.
11, right?
There
11,
you go.
10?
Yeah,
11?
11.
Yeah, 11, yeah.
And that fight, did you watch the Condit Lawler fight?
I did.
Who'd you score it for?
I saw it at a bar, and people were bothering me.
Okay.
But, the rounds, I thought it was close. I really did. I would have been surprised either way. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I thought Robbie definitely, overall, the momentum was with him, I think, just based on how he closes out fights. But, man, it was a great fight.
It's funny that you say that you were at a bar and people are bothering you. I hate watching sporting events, and in particular MMA events at a bar, and I'm not Frankie Edgar. I'm not this worldwide celebrity. Why in the world would you go to a bar to watch a fight? I feel like you couldn't watch a second of it.
I know. It was at my buddy's place, and I was being cheap. I didn't feel like buying it. But
What? Are they not paying you enough?
I just wanted to get out of the house. I went to my buddy's bar. I thought, we usually go upstairs, but we ended up watching with the masses and
the common folk.
Yeah, it was a good fight. So yes.
Okay, so why it somewhat reminded me of your fight. It's because afterwards there's a lot of controversy about judging and scoring and what's a 10-8 round and who won this and that. What's your take? Because you know about this better than most. I mean, your fight against BJ, the first one, 112, there was some controversy there. What's your take on the state of MMA judging, the 10-9 system, all that? Is it time that we really rectify this issue here, or are you okay with it?
It is. I think it is. Obviously, look, just this issue keeps coming up, and it's because the system's flawed. I don't know if I have the answer. I think I've seen someone say something about maybe more judges, more eyes looking at it.
Yeah.
I think I think they should do it overall. Like, all right, overall score of the fight? Like the momentum, like Pride kind of did a little bit. Like I said, Condit may have won round the round, but I just felt like the momentum was with Robbie that fight.
That's a great point. I actually asked someone that afterwards. If this was Pride, who would win? And I think it would be Robbie Lawler. It makes a lot of sense, although that's subjective as well. I just think my main problem is 10-9. We don't know. It's so hard to decide what's a 10-8, and you know that better than anyone. But then a 10-9, like the fifth round couldn't be the same score as the third round or the second round. It just that's a boxing model. It doesn't work for MMA, and I don't understand why there's not more of a push to fix this, because I feel like guys are getting robbed, and you know this. Victories mean a lot. You need a victory if you're trying to get a new contract or advance your career, get a title shot. I think it's high time that we fix this.
I agree, man. It's people's lives on the line, literally. I mean, it's how we make our living, and for someone to take a win from you that maybe you should have won is definitely heartbreaking.
And what's also weird? These judges are making peanuts. They're making nothing, but yet they're deciding fights that 7 figures on the line, if not more.
Right.
That seems a little skewed as well. Your buddy Ricardo Alameda is a judge in the state of New Jersey. Does he ever talk to you about what he thinks, what the issues are? Because I know he did a show recently where he was in a room all by himself. I think it was CFFC, and that seems like an interesting concept as well.
Yeah, no, Jersey's definitely pretty progressive, I think, with some of the things. They're trying to, see what works and see what. Ricardo even said it was just a little weird, just not watching it out there and being on the headphones and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, you got to try something. It is flawed, and I'm not saying that. I mean, I think Condit. I wouldn't have been upset if either one of them. I mean, we all won in that fight.
When you watch a fight like that, do you enjoy it? Like, do you say, because as a fan, I think we enjoy it, but as a fighter, are you like, man, that's a lot of punishment? Like, because you're looking at it through different goggles. How do you digest a fight like that?
Yeah, it's tough. Sometimes you look at it as a fighter, or sometimes you want to look at it as a fan. But I think when it's not my weight class, it's definitely easier to look at it as a fan. And especially those two. I mean, they're both really classy guys. They're easy to get behind. I was trying to watch it through a fan's eyes. That's for sure. Do
you cringe at all, or do you enjoy the brutality?
I mean, you cringe a little bit. I'll be real. You know. I mean, you enjoy it too, though. It's just like it's just like anything, man. Like in the Roman days, people I'm sure cringe, but they cheered for it too at the same time.
Right, and I'm sure you feel for Carlos, right? I mean, getting so close
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a couple times too now.
Right.
Against George. I mean, it was when it wasn't his close fight, but he's been knocking on that door and hasn't been able to get it done. It's definitely tough. Now you got to think how many opportunities are you ever going to get again?
Right. I don't think we understand that these guys. You put everything into a fight. You climb that ladder, you climb that mountain, and then when you lose, sometimes you have to go to the bottom of it again. And that in its own right is a daunting thought. Okay, so let's transition to you here because you were a big story in December. You're still very much a big story. Where are we at with you? Do you know what's next? Do you know if you're getting that title shot?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm like in limbo here. I was promised that I get whatever I want one night. To the next night saying, I guess Conor gets whatever he wants.
Right. Are you pissed off?
For sure I'm pissed. I've been at this for a while now. I've been knocking on the door for this title shot for a while. And, it started with Cub. Cub was promised a title shot. If he beat me, he was promised a title shot. I beat him. I finished him in pretty dominating fashion. And, no, I'm not even considered for that title shot. I mean, it's just and I take it in stride. I do everything in stride, man. I do think I'm a company man, but it's not really panning out for me being that way.
But at some point, you can't keep taking it in stride, right? And at some point, you're gonna break. You're gonna lose patience. I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm there. I'm there already. But I'm not one to sit there and cry about it. I mean, it's funny, people. My whole careers, or as of recent, you're too quiet. You need to say stuff. Da da da. And then you say something like, "Oh, you're fucking crying," blah blah blah. Come on, you just can't win with these people.
That's true.
And that's why you really can't pay attention to them. And the people I need to be talking to is Dana and Lorenzo, and they seem like they're not listening either. So
when's the last time you talked to them about this?
This is the night of Conor's fight. I talked to Dana a little bit, and I walked up to go into the cage. Someone grabbed me to go into the cage. I mean, one of them was Ali, and the other one was one of Lorenzo's assistants. So I thought they wanted me to go in the cage. And then as I'm about to walk in, Dana's walking out. He's like, "You're not going in there." He's like, Conor's going up, blah, blah, blah. We don't know what he's doing. He might give Aldo a rematch. We don't know.
Huh.
I just kind of, I've never been, granted, I guess Conor put himself in that position where he's in charge, but I've never been there. So, usually I'm doing what they ask of me.
So you're actually walking into the cage and you get stonewalled?
Yeah. Dana gives me the, you ain't going in there.
Is that embarrassing?
I don't know, man. I don't know who brought me up there anyway. So,
okay.
I don't know if anybody's seen me embarrassing. I mean, what's embarrassing is I don't get this damn title shot.
Right. What an amazing 24 hours for you. And I couldn't help. I think I even asked you this question in our post-fight interview. You win in emphatic fashion. No one does that to Chad Mendez. And then they say, you're getting the title shot. And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, in 24 hours, Conor's fighting Aldo. A whole host of things can happen. They could take this away from you in 24 hours. Like, I can see this happening. And so what's the range of emotions that you're dealing with? You're so excited, yet are you a little bit like hesitant to really embrace this moment? And then you see what happens to Aldo, and then it's complete. Like, I felt like you went home to New Jersey a couple days later, like with more questions than answers when you should have had the answer that you were looking for.
No, I agree. You know, I was deflated, man. I mean,
Deflated.
I was on sky high one day, and the next day, literally, like someone rained on my parade. And it was just it was eating at me. It's like, fuck, man, I fought one of the best fights of my life. I shouldn't be feeling like I should be going home, riding high right now, and I just wasn't. So that's unfortunate. You know, I mean, you don't only have so many of those moments in this career, and for it to kind of get taken away from me just by the next day is tough.
So if he does go up to 155, what are you going to do?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they're like. Again, I know nothing. I'll be honest. I know nothing. And are they going to let him keep the belt? What? I don't know. You know, I remember when they were trying to get me to go down to 45 when I was a 55-pound champion. They said I have to let go of the belt to do that. You know, but I don't know if it's going up. I don't know what it is. But here we are. So I'm not fighting for the title.
Are you sure about that, though? Are you 100% sure of that?
No, like I said, I really don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe. I think I think Conor needs to stay at 45. I mean, he hasn't even defended the belt yet. I think he has to stay at 45. That's what I think.
If he moves up to 155 and doesn't drop the title, how would you react to that?
I mean, what am I going to do? Scream and shout? You know, what can I really do? What can I do? I mean, Dana and Lorenzo, they know what I want, man. I mean, there are people like, oh, you need to call them. Well, they fucking know what I want. You know, what am I going to do? Bother them and for what? For them to say no? Or promise me something one day and then say no the next? Come on.
If he fights in March, his team has said that they want him to fight in March, and then maybe comes back for UFC 200. Would you be okay with waiting? Because, you know, things can happen. A guy breaks his foot, breaks his ankle. I don't know, who knows what can happen. Would you be okay with waiting? Or because you've waited before and it hasn't really panned out as well. At the end of the day, you want to make money. You're a prize fighter. You want to be champion too, but you have to provide for your family. So what would be your mindset then? If he fights at 155 in March, what do you do?
I know some people are telling me I should wait, but I'm going to wait so they could take it away from me again?
Yeah.
I don't think I could do that, you know? Like you said, man, I got a family to feed. This window's closing. You know, I mean, we all know this ain't a long career. And I'm 34. I feel great. I feel young. I feel like I'm getting better. But, you know, time wins over everybody eventually. So I feel like I'm just missing opportunities left and right. How
many more years do you think you have left in you?
Oh, I don't know. I don't like to put a number on anything. I feel great. You know, 40's always been a number in my head. But, you know, I'm 34. We'll see. We'll take it one fight at a time at this point.
What's your stance on 135 these days?
I don't know. You know, my idea is to get that 45-pound belt before I do anything, before I make any decision on whether I want to go 35 or not.
Okay.
But the way things are looking, who knows? I mean, if I'm ever going to get this friggin' opportunity, but you know, it's not getting easier to cut weight in the sport. You know, with everything they're doing. So
sure.
Who knows if I really want to get down all the way to 35?
When you did 145, when you, like now when you're fighting at 145 against Chad, obviously you couldn't use an IV. In the past, could you use an IV? Did you use it?
Yeah, I used one. I didn't need it. You know, I really didn't need it. I just used it because everyone did. You know, and this past time I didn't use it, and I probably felt better than I ever have. So yeah. For me, I don't think it mattered.
Well, I mean, you just knocked out Chad Mendes, so clearly.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you really can't say, oh, that was because of the IV.
Sure.
You know, I'm just saying the way my body felt after the night of weigh-ins, the day of the fight, I didn't feel bloated at all. I felt pretty good. So, you know, no IV don't matter for me. At least at 45.
Right.
Who knows what 35 is?
Most people, including myself, were blown away that Conor knocked out Jose in 13 seconds. What was your reaction to it?
Yeah, I was just like you, blown away. I mean, I don't think anybody expected that. Not that I didn't expect the knockout to happen. I just didn't think it was going to happen in that fashion, 13 seconds. You really can't take anything from it, you know?
Did you think that, okay, like, were you not a believer of Conor and now you are? Or were you a believer beforehand? Like, did that seal it for you?
No, I've always been kind of, you know, talking up Conor. You know, I'm not, like, I think the way he talks and carries himself, a lot of people don't want to give him credit because he's kind of a dick at times, you know, to certain people in the UFC or in my weight class. But, you know, I call a spade, man. He definitely shows up, performs, and puts on good shows. He did that again against Aldo. I mean, did I expect that to happen? No. I don't think anybody did. Do
you have the blueprint in your mind how to beat this guy? Do you already see it?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you've seen shades of it with Chad, and I'm definitely a different fighter than Chad, but can do some of the things he can, and I mean, it's not gonna be an easy fight. All fights are hard, but yeah, I think I'm the worst matchup for McGregor. I think he knows it. I think you know it. I think the UFC knows it. And I just need that chance to get my hands on him.
So do you feel like that's why you're not getting it?
No. I mean, I don't know. If he goes up, doesn't fight. If he goes up to 55, doesn't fight for that title, yeah, then I say there's a reason he's not fighting me. If he fights for the title, I can see, all right, you want to fight two titles. I mean, what can I say? I still think if you make everyone else have to let go of belts, he should have to leave that belt behind. But first and foremost, though, I want to fight McGregor for the belt as soon as possible. That's what I want. Am I going to get it? I fucking doubt it.
What if they say March? Would you be ready to fight in March?
Absolutely.
Okay. And, I'm curious. I want to ask you the same question I asked your manager and friend Ali Abdelaziz in December after the Dos Anjos win. He's in an awkward spot because you guys go way back. He's your manager. He's also RDA's manager, and he seems to be in the running as well. Is that weird for you that your guy kind of manages both guys that's in the running for this fight?
No, I'm not really, because obviously it's not up to us. It's not like Ali's calling him saying, all right, he's fighting Frankie, he's fighting Dos Anjos, he's fighting this guy. It's up to them, so it kind of don't matter,
So let's just clear something up here, because a lot of people like to make jokes about it. You went on kind of this Twitter rant a few days ago, and then there was a mix-up where it seemed like Ali was doing some of the tweeting. Are you running your Twitter account? Is he? Let's clear it up.
All right, okay. It's so funny. When people write stories about this, I guess MMA's hurting. MMA's hurting for stories. They got Sherlock Holmes out there checking Twitter saying, "Oh my God, this guy switched names." I believe it was the day before Christmas Eve.
Yep.
Ali's like, "Brother, you need to do Q&A, brother, Q&A." I said, "I don't feel like doing it." He's like, "Do you care if I do it?" I said, "Go ahead." He's like, "I'm gonna tag Lorenzo, Connor, blah blah." And yes, I said, "Go for it." Now, all the stuff he said, do I believe it? Yes, I believe I fight Connor. I believe I beat Connor. I believe all the stuff I said that he said. I pretty much do believe everything he said. Would I have worded it the way he did or spelt it the way he did? Maybe not. But I got the point across, and I got people talking. So
that's true.
Job well done.
So you don't mind if he goes under you and tweets and shakes things up a little bit?
No. Usually it's promotional stuff. This time he said he wanted me to do it. I didn't do it. Or I didn't want to do it, and he asked if he could. I said, go ahead, but
he freestyled.
Past these guys, they're just too slick, these little Twitterers.
He freestyled on you a little bit, and
he did freestyle, and usually he's got an assistant with him to help him spell. I think his assistant was off for the day or something because it was pretty bad.
So what's your reaction when you wake up the next day and you see this is an actual story that he messed up maybe and wrote?
I was like, man, what I do now, but whatever, man. People are talking about it. This is what I want. That's what I said. Everyone's like, "Oh, you don't say nothing. You need to talk more. All right, I fucking talk more. Now people are dogging that. So you just can't win either way.
It's kind of funny. Ali reminds me, and I say this with the utmost, respect and love. He's like an old school pro wrestling manager, like one of those guys who, he has some guys that are a little reluctant to really say what's on their mind. So he goes out and does it. I have no problem with that, to be honest. Part of the game.
Yeah, I mean he's a character in this game of MMA. He is, and it's his heart's in the right place. That's all. He just wants what's best for us, and he sometimes goes out on a limb to do it.
Man, I got to say though, I love the passion and emotion. I don't think I've ever heard you swear this many times in an interview. You're pissed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm letting it all fly. All right, this is me too. It's not Ali, as you can tell.
So what do you like? What's the motivation now? You wake up in the morning, you go to the gym. Are you just pissed off, taking it out on everyone? Do you not have motivation to train because this is frustrating? How do you go about your day these days?
Yeah, I'm training, man. I'm in the gym already, man. That's there's no lack of motivation. I just go about doing what I do. I'm not worried about I'm trying to. You can't get upset over things you can't control, and I'm really trying to take that approach with this. It's hard though because this is my life. This is everything I put into, and it's really hard not to get frustrated. But everyone around me is getting frustrated. I'm trying to keep zen-like.
Yeah, and so if they come out and say he's fighting anyone else, how will you react to that? Do you have any idea?
Realistically, I'm I mean, come on. That's what's going to happen. I'm fucking setting myself up for that already. You know, I'm not setting myself up for hope for the best, expect the worst. I'm expecting the worst.
Expecting the worst. So I guess if it comes out of left field and a surprise, reaches your doorstep, then it's a good thing. But right now, you're not expecting to fight Conor.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not. You know, the only way that I could fight Conor if Conor says, I want to fight Frankie Edgar. That's it. And I don't think he's going to say that.
Why not? Why don't you think so?
I just think he thinks I'm the most risky fight out there. Why would he want to risk that? He wants to go make all this money, spend all this money. He doesn't want to, he blames it on the weight cut. If it's the weight cut, then you can't fight 45 no more.
Right.
You know?
And you don't feel like...
Go ahead.
Go, no, please.
No, go ahead. You're good. You're good.
And you don't feel like if you call Lorenzo, I feel like you've had a really good relationship with him and Dana. You don't feel if you make your case that they'll see the light here? You think he's calling all the shots?
Yeah, I mean, from what I think, yeah, he's calling the shots. I don't think it matters with Dan Lorenzo. And really, I don't think I'm the best fight that they want. I don't think they want him to pick me either. You know? So I got all three of them against me.
Wow. All right. Well, I do appreciate the emotion, like I said, and I said on this show not that long ago, I feel like, and I even said on UFC Tonight, if he fights you, and let's say he gets by you, then he has cleaned out the division. But let's just get this one out of the way. This is the guy who deserves it. They said he deserves it. He's the one who... Agreed. You know, he cuts a boatload of weight because, you know, he's the baddest guy in the world, but he cuts a boatload of weight to make 45. You know, and he's saying, he wants to have 2 belts, this and that. But if you cut so much weight, it's not going to get easier. Might as well do it now. Get it out of the way. Get it out of the way, yeah. It doesn't look like New York will get done, but wow, could you imagine Frankie versus Conor in New York? New Jersey guy against the Irish guy at MSG. Biggie and Tupac. You come out with Biggie. He comes out with the Notorious song. Wait, you're both coming out with Biggie. That's weird. Biggie, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of weird. You know, I was there first, man. I was there first. That's right. Well, I do appreciate, like I said, and good luck trying to get it, and I hope it all works out. You deserve it, my man. What you did to Chad, no one's done, and wow. I mean, what can you say about your year? A very impressive year. Congratulations on that year, and good luck in 2016, Frankie. Always great to talk to you. I hope you get what you deserve, my friend. All right, thanks so much, man. I'll see you soon. Okay, and be careful on that Twitter, by the way, all right? Get dangerous out there. I'm definitely changing passwords. Fuck him. No. All right. Later, bro. All right, there he is, Frankie Edgar. Wow, never heard that side of Frankie Edgar before. Coming out, guns blazing, first interview of the year. No better way to start it. Well, how about this? I think we're going to get some emotion out of our next guest. He's Tyron Woodley. He was working on Saturday for Fox. He was watching with bated breath the main event. He's joining us right now, I think, via the magic of Skype. There he is. Look at Tyron Woodley, the ultimate pro. Where are you right now, Tyron? Oh, no audio. Wait. Hold that thought. Can't hear you. We got audio. We got audio. Here we are. We got it. Yep. I got the headset on. I got the broadband. I had to mute it because TSA was talking about the airplane and getting everybody ready, first class board and all that crap. I'm at the airport, and I am not going to be quiet. I'm not going to wait because we don't have that much time. Yep. I'm with Frankie. I heard the homie on early. Frankie should fight Conor, number one. I think Frankie will beat Conor. I think that's part of the reason why Conor is not asking for Frankie, because he knows he's going to be in shape. He's going to be prepared. They won't be able to spring up a 2-week, hey, man, you want to fight Conor? He's going to be ready for it. I think that style is horrible for Conor McGregor. And, I'll be excited to watch it. But talking back to myself. Yes. I was watching the fights this weekend, for sure. Yes. And my damn tie was all messed up on the air because I was excited. I was watching the fight as a friend of Robbie's, as a fan of the sport. It was a crazy, pivotal moment for the welterweight division. And as a fighter, I feel like you should honor what you say to a fighter. We're out here putting our life on the line, our health at risk. Why am I going to keep knocking off top 10 guys if I'm not going to fight for the world title? I think it was a close fight. I mean, I don't know how you had it, Ariel, watching it. We're not watching it as judges. We're emotional. So we're looking at what's going on. I knew for a fact Carlos won the first round, which what Shaw said in my analysis. If he can win that first round, it changes the fight because he usually loses that first round. He comes back and win later rounds. He won that first round. That had us scared. The second round, Robbie won. The third round is the round that everybody's throwing up in the air. I thought Carlos clearly won 4. I thought Robbie clearly won the fifth round and almost finished him. So I thought Carlos won the fight when I watched it.
I'll go back and look at it again. Really, I just need to go back and look at the third round.
Yep.
And then from that point, it really doesn't matter to me. I mentally was prepared to have to face a friend and teammate if I had to and finish up what I started with Carlos Condon so everybody can zip those lips because they figured he was going to miraculously come back and beat me. So I was excited for either way.
I love this. I don't even need to ask you any questions. You can just do the whole thing.
Hey,
You're a
I
pro.
just want to make sure we got that in because when they start doing that,
Yeah.
I didn't want to get cut off.
Yeah, no problem. And I know that you're short for time here, so I'll make it quick. But when you're watching that fight and it gets to the fifth round and it turns into one of the greatest fifth rounds of a title fight ever, and they're doing that, what's going through your mind? Like, are you thinking, man, my title shot is slipping away here? They're going to do a rematch. How are you processing this?
Even before that last round, let me let this lady speak real quick.
No problem. We hear you more than her, so you can go through her.
Oh, perfect. And I'll talk a little louder.
No problem.
Even before the fifth round, the way that the fight was going, I already was thinking, God damn it, they're about to do this fight again. We're in the era of the rematch. People want to see a rematch every other weekend. How many rematches have you saw? Think about Kane fought JDS a couple times. Robbie fought Johnny a couple times. They wanted to see Holly Holmes immediately fight, Ronda Rousey again. I think a rematch is preserved for controversy. If someone, got knocked out real quick and you didn't get the opportunity to see the fight. But when it's a clear, concisive win, I don't believe a rematch should be warranted. I feel like there's guys behind you waiting that are grinding, that if you're the top guy, you're one of the top guys in the world, you will make your way back up to the top, and then you will win it the next time around. In this situation, unfortunately, it's a little bit damn controversy, but there's more variables than just that. Carlos Condon's mentioned, he's mentioning retiring, So it's two ways that can go. He can retire, and then it's obvious who's fighting next, the man right here, or he can go up to, Dana White and be like, hey, man, if I don't fight my next fight for the title, I'm going to retire. And what do you think they're going to do? They're going to line his pockets and they're going to make it happen. For me, this is my year, man. You can delay, but you cannot deny. I need to make the T-shirt. That is going to be my mantra for the entire year. I will be the world champion. I am the best in the world. Watching the fight, I was inspired. But I also had the pen and notepad there, and I saw a lot of opportunities where I would have seized the moment or I would have not engaged into that freaking all-out brawl. I know you guys love watching it, but Carlos Condon could have found a way to get to a clinch, drop some elbows and knees, bring Robbie close to him, and avoid letting him win that round.
Let's play devil's advocate. If they go the immediate rematch, what do you do?
Shit, I have to tune somebody up. Somebody's going to get whooped bad, a whooping they don't even deserve. And, I just think that if they do the immediate rematch, they'll preserve that fight for UFC 200. I should quit talking because I'm giving the UFC many goddamn ideas. But I need to cut that off.
But next
rewind.
Fair enough.
I'm fighting the next guy.
But come February, you have not fought in a year, and you're healthy.
Yeah,
you're healthy. This is the prime of your life. So I mean, don't you want to get back to work sooner rather than?
I'm super healthy. Yeah, I'll never stop working.
I mean, let's
think about this, Ariel.
Yep.
If you say, hey, I can fight. Did I turn you down?
No, I hear you.
I can fight for a world title, right? Or you take a fight in between. Per se, a Matt Brown, beat his little old body up or something like that. Matt Brown. And then you fight him. What if I slip on the banana peel that Carlos Condon slipped on when we fought, and then I'm out the fight? Now, does he jump ahead and fight for a world title? Had never defeating a top 10 guy? Do I fight Damian Maia? And it's a wrestling fest that no one enjoys watching. Nobody wants to see me do another Jake Shields fight. That's the risk that I put myself into. I would rather preserve my body, stay in shape, stay mentally sharp, be prepared, and get the world title fight and seize the moment. The money comes at the champion belt. There's no hidden secret. I'm trying to change my family life. I ain't trying to just keep collecting checks and a few months later scrape again. I'm trying to secure longevity for my family, wealth for my family. I'm trying to leave a legacy. The goal is to be a champion. It's not to be a contender. So these are contender fights. I feel like I've done enough. I feel like I've done enough to already fought for the world title before, so why should I have to do more?
Do we have a couple minutes still?
We still got a couple minutes.
Okay. This is the guy that you need to call, by the way. This is the one that you need to worry about, in my opinion. It's that guy in Montreal, GSP, because I feel like they're going to try to get him out to fight Robbie. What do you think of that? Even more so than Condit.
Well, as I said before, I need not play my cards out on the MMA Hour because I know everyone watches the MMA Hour.
That's true.
But my goal is to become the champion, and I get to fight against GSP.
Oh,
you can't watch.
That'd be fun.
He's the actual number one welterweight. He's a lineal number one guy. You can't watch this guy sit on the throne that long, defeat 3 different generations, the up and coming guys. He beat the guys that were just jiu-jitsu guys or just strikers. He beat the guys that were mixed martial artists like Koscheck. Then he beat the generation which I'm in, which is Johnny Hendricks, the heavy-handed wrestler that can stop a shot and also can strike. He's done it. He finished at the top. He retired as champion. If he comes back, I want to be in position that I'm the world champion, that I get the big pay-per-view check, and that I get a chance to at least know for myself where I measure up against a guy that was the best in the world.
Okay, so here's the big question. Have you talked to the UFC brass since Saturday night? Do you have any idea where you stand?
I'm letting it marinate. I feel like, man, I've done that route before. I'm in a position now where, you remember where I came from. I came off a loss on Strike Force. I came out and let the UFC and let the entire world know what I was made of with that 36 knockout of Jay Heron. Then I went and I annoyed Dana White to oblivion. I blew him up. I told him what I wanted. I took the big fights. I've never asked for a fighter that wasn't either a number one contender or a former title holder or title challenger. Think about my route. Jake Shields fought for the title. He was a Strikeforce champ. Carlos Condit was an interim champ and fought for the title. Rory McDonald. Everyone I've asked for, Johnny Hendricks. It's not by design. People say, Tyron, pick fight. You damn right, I pick fights. The fights I pick are hard. They're harder than the ones people offer me, and they're the people that are either the number one contender or have formerly fought for the title. That's my goal to the top. I want to leave no question. So with that said, I have not talked to them. I think they know the right thing to do. Some things got to sort out, and I'm also logical. I know that people want to see Carlos Condit versus Robbie Lawler too, and I'm just preparing myself to be heartbroken again. But I'm telling you, if I get heartbroken, they're gonna get somebody hurt.
Oh, okay.
They're gonna get somebody hurt real bad.
I feel like in the past you've had success calling out Dana White and bugging him and stuff. So why not do it again?
You know what? I'm gonna take your advice. I'm gonna give him a call when I get to Pittsburgh.
Oh no! Don't blame me.
I'm like, you know what? Ariel Helwani told me to call you.
No.
And I agree with him, Dana. What are we gonna do here? I'm always a professional. These dudes freaking coming in way pregnant, missing weight by 10 pounds, and all of a sudden I'm the one that's like, what do you need me to do more? I'm the professional. I'm been winning fights. I knocked out two top 10 guys. I went to freaking Macau and fought Hector's fight when he was hurt. I've stepped in for you. What do you need me to do? Do I need to break dance? Do I need to, what do I need to do to get the world title shot? So, yeah, I'll give him a buzz. I'll let him know you sent your love.
No, yeah, and then he'll accuse you of being a clickbaiter and full of crap and all this other stuff. So I don't suggest you do that part. The other part, do it. How'd you like working for Fox? I know you were looking forward to that.
Man, I loved it, man. I appreciate you giving me some tips as well and some good words of wisdom and some good nudge. Hey, man, you might want to get this dude in here. It was fun. I have to look at the post-fight show because the other parts I was prepared for, man. I got a speech coach. I was really trying to be serious about it.
Yeah.
And the post-fight show came, man. We all were emotional. Like, I was not trying to hide it. I know you don't supposed to cut off the host, but when she started talking about these rematches, I'm like, time out, KB. Time out. I'm tired of these rematches. We got enough of those. We had a rematch last week.
Yeah.
Go and watch that one again. So it was fun, man. I think I'll be back, and I'm only going to get better.
And so was it hard for you to separate? Because when you're up there, you're supposed to be the unbiased, analyst and things like that. But come post fight show, you're saying if anyone missed it, you were this Tyron Woodley, right? So it was hard to kind of separate.
I was this Tyron Woodley.
I was this Tyron Woodley,
but I was still the logical one. I was the one that was being respectful because these guys just went out there and they gave us a definition. Webster's going to change our dictionary. Oh. When someone leave it in the octagon, it's going to be a picture of Carlos Condit and Robbie Lawler hanging their hands on the top of the cage, breathing, because they left everything stuff their body didn't even have. They grabbed stuff from the atmosphere and put it into their body. They left it in the cage. So I was opinionated, but I also was respectful of what just happened. You never want to steal a moment for those guys. They made history that night. That fight will go in the record books. But I told people that I wanted next for sure.
Hey, by the way, if you fight Robbie, would you train in Florida at all? I heard that you were considering training in Florida for that fight, which could make for an awkward situation, no?
Hey, I'm considering training with Robbie. Why are we going to waste all this money getting simulations hey, Robbie, me and you can train together for 6 to 8 weeks, beat each other butt, and then spar on Saturday night in Vegas. So,
Really?
man, nah, probably not, but
Okay.
you have to know Robbie, man. I'm more bent out of shape about it. I've been calling Robbie, I'm like, man, we getting closer to fighting each other, man. This sucks. I hate the thought of it. And you know what Robbie's response is? Man, don't worry about that. Go out there and beat Johnny's ass. He's not worried about it.
Wow.
It's like him fighting me is not like something that makes his heart rate jump up. He will fight anybody. He is literally the only person left in the sport that came in a fighter that's become a competitor and a fighter. So he can compete and he can fight, as you've seen last night. I mean, not last night, Saturday night.
And do you have a time frame? Like, do you not want to wait until X month? Do you want to get, you know what I mean?
No, I don't have a time frame. My spirit is usually right. I usually know. People always say Tyron's not going to get this fight. You're not ranked. You're not going to do that. Aaron, you've seen, man, I've been pretty pinpoint accurate when things happen that people didn't think were going to happen. So right now I feel like I need to get ready. Whether it's for a title shot, whether it's for another fight in between, my body, my mind, my spirit tells me, Tyron, it's time to get ready. If you were not inspired, I don't care what line of work you in, if you were not inspired by two people operating in their gift, operating in what God created them to do, and leaving it all out there, like, I don't know if your heart works, because those guys motivated me to get in the gym, to really put myself in bad situations, fight through them. So when I get into that world title fight, I can match that. I can match that type of performance, or even better, take one of those guys out and finish him.
Okay, let me let you go because I know you have a flight to catch, but give us a couple plugs. You have a new podcast, and you're going to do something cool in Pittsburgh. I don't know if you want to share that. What do you want to plug?
Yeah, for sure. Man, I'm always doing stuff. I'm doing commercials, movies. Right now, I'm heading to Pittsburgh. I'm working with Dick's Sporting Goods.
Wow.
I'm motivating these guys for 2016 so they can boost their sales. I'm going to put them through a little workout, and I'm going to talk to them about, pretty much what we saw Saturday, leaving it all on there, going out there and chasing these sales. So, I do things of that nature as well.
Wow.
I have the podcast, The Morning Wood Show with These Nuts. The first episode was my man, Ari Hawani. I appreciate you, brother. And it is hard to book guests, man.
Oh.
Now I see what you go through. It's hard to book guests.
There you go.
And have those technical difficulties. So it's been going great. Myself, Dean Thomas, TJ DeSantis produces, but it's been a phenomenal show. Make sure you go to SoundCloud and iTunes, The Morning Wood Show with These Nuts. It's a great show, man. We give guys an opportunity for you to get to know them. Like our next episode coming out tomorrow, Aljamain Sterling. Man, Have you interviewed this kid?
Oh, I love
this
him.
kid is the bomb, man. I'm a forever fan of him now. So check that out, and I appreciate the opportunity to plug that.
Absolutely. Safe travels. You're the man. What an appearance. Great job. I hope you get what you want, my man, and great job at the studio in LA this past week, and I heard you did phenomenal.
Thank you, man. You take it easy.
All right, there he is, Tyron Woodley. Wow. If the first two interviews of today's show are any indication, these guys are bringing it strong in 2016. Holy moly. This is fun. Now, of course, we have to take a little dip in the intensity department and in the intensity department, because Mark Ramundi is coming up next, and he can be sometimes a little bit of a womp womp negative Nancy party pooper, if you know what I'm saying. We're going to be joined by our own Mark Ramundi in a matter of moments, but holy moly, what about Frankie Edgar and then Tyron Woodley, two guys who are in tough spots, who feel like they need to speak up. I mean, the facts are the facts. They were I even think Frankie more so than Woodley, but to a degree, they were both told that they're next, and they could both see those golden opportunities slip away again. So you can understand their frustration. You can understand where they're coming from. You can certainly appreciate the emotion, the passion. Sometimes in the sport, look, squeaky wheel gets the grease. If Nate Diaz never went on Fox, dropped all those F-bombs, said what he said beforehand and afterwards, he wouldn't be in that discussion as well. You got to do it. That's the sport we're in. So I'm happy, especially for Frankie, who's recognizing that you need to speak up. You just do. And it has to be authentic. It has to be real. Well, you heard from Frankie Edgar there. I've been interviewing Frankie Edgar since, I think the first time I interviewed him was UFC 98. Maybe a little bit before that. Never heard him swear this much, and that's real. That's the real guy right there. So it's going to be interesting to see what the UFC does with both Conor and Robbie Lawler because they've got options. And as Connor told us, numbers and options. That's the fight game. All right, let's move along. Let's bring in our own Mark Ramundi now, who has some big shoes to fill. He's coming off two of the best guests of the year, the best guests of 2016, our first two guests. But I got to say, what is going on with the internet connection over there in West Hollywood? This is by far the best internet connection of the year. Look at that. It looks like you're right here.
I think that it's just my face that brings out the crystal clearness of the connection.
No, seriously, what is this? I don't know if people can actually appreciate it. This is unbelievable, right? It looks like you're in 3D.
I have to invest in good internet if I'm going to have a job covering all these fights.
That is true.
For a website, right? We have great internet here. It's fantastic.
Well done.
See my little friend here?
Yeah, who's that?
That's Rubella.
This is Esther and Casey's dog.
Yeah.
And why do you still have Rubella? Aren't they back?
They're I think they got back like late last night or something like that. They're going to come get them today.
Okay, let's talk. Enough about dogs and internet connection. Robbie Lawler, Carlos Condit.
Yeah.
The majority of the public, media, fans, scored it for Condit. You did not, right?
Oh, I did not.
You scored it for Lawler. Tell us. Break it down. Why?
Well, I think, first of all, I watched it live, and I scored it for Lawler. The third round is obviously is the round that everyone's talking about. That's the one that is the most imperative. I think everyone can agree that Carlos Condit won the first, Lawler won the second, Condit won the fourth, and then Lawler won the fifth, right? I think that's pretty much unanimous at this point.
Yes, although when I interviewed Condit, by the way, my math was completely off. I said he won the fourth. The fifth was very confusing. But yes, what you just said is accurate.
It's fine. Okay, so the third round is really what it comes down to. And live, I scored it for Lawler. I went back and I rewatched it again yesterday, and I still scored it for Lawler. But I will concede that I thought it was an extremely, extremely close round. I don't have any problem with someone saying that Condit won it. I have no problem with someone saying that Lawler won it. I think it was just a really close round, and it was a close fight. And I don't think any score is wrong. There's no robbery. Yeah. Anyone who's saying it's a robbery doesn't really understand how to score and judge fights. It was a close fight. Close fights like that do not equal robbery. Robbie Lawler did just enough to win, so did Condit, but that's how this game goes. That's how this sport goes.
Yeah, I don't think it was a robbery. I mean, when it comes down to one round and a moment here or there, this has.
Did you watch the round again at all yesterday?
Yes.
How close was that round? I mean, that was like.
By the way, the first and second are close as well. It's not like
they are close.
It's not like there's a clear-cut winner in any of these. Maybe the fourth. So this, once again, as usually is the case, it brings into question, the state of MMA judging and what we can do to fix it. You're one of the few guys in the media that's actually taken a course and has shadowed judges, and you really understand what goes into all this. I think one of the biggest issues, by the way, there's two big issues, and I want to get your take. First of all, the judges make nothing. They're literally making peanuts, and they're deciding the fate of these multi-million-dollar fights. That, in its own right, is bizarre. And the 10-9 system, this is not news. It doesn't work. It's wrong. It's a boxing model for a 12-round fight. Back in the day, 15 rounds. This doesn't work for a 3 or 5 round fight. Well, how do we fix this? What's the problem here?
Well, yeah. To your point about judges not making any money. Remember, it came out before the McGregor Aldo fight that John McCarthy only made $1,900 for that event. That was outrageous to me.
Yeah,
that's outrageous to me, considering how much money that fight was going to bring in. That the referee, the third man in the octagon for that fight, was making so little. I couldn't believe that. That was crazy. But that just speaks to how little that these guys actually get paid. So it's hard to expect. I mean, yes, that's their job. You expect them to do the best of their abilities and to be very good at their job at that high level, but they're not getting paid very much. As far as the 10-9 system, I'm not in love with it, but I don't think this event was the one that demonstrated so much how bad it is. There's been other cases where, I think that the Johnny Hendricks George St. Pierre fight was probably like example A of why that system is a little hinky and why it's not always the greatest. But in a case like this, it was a close fight, and no matter how you're going to score, and no matter what kind of system you're going to use, whether it's 10-9 or the prize system, it's going to be a close fight, and there are going to be people mad either way. That's just how it goes. I mean, and I think part of me thinks that's kind of the cool thing about the sport. This is not baseball. This is not the NBA where it's clear. Someone scores the most points, they win the game. Someone scores the most runs, they win the game. This is a fight. It's not like that. As much as I love the guys that, at Fight Metric and all the stats, and their stats are incredible, stats don't necessarily tell the tale of a fight 100%. Just because Condit outstruck Lawler by that far margin, that's not how you score a fight. You don't score a fight by how many strikes. No two strikes are created equal. It's the harder strikes, the one that do the most damage, the one that are the most effective that you score. You weight that over the jabs and the leg kicks and that sort of thing, which is why I also had Tumenov beating Larkin.
Interesting. Now, this may surprise some people, but this controversy, what you were just talking about, is actually one of the things that I love about MMA, what I call the barbershop component of MMA, that you can sit around, that we can sit around, go for lunch, get a coffee, something, and actually talk about Lawler Condit for like 3 hours, and not just the fight itself. Where do they go from here? The match. That's what makes the sport fun. That's the difference between combat sports, and in particular our sport, as opposed to the major sports, the button-up sports. So I kind of love this sort of thing. Okay, so let's just so Lawler wins. That's it. What do you think they do now? That's the big question, right? Rematch, go in a different direction. Woodley, GSP. What do you do?
It's an enigma, because who wouldn't want to see that rematch? I mean, who wouldn't want to see that rematch? Again, Condit, it was so close. Condit could make, how can you say Condit doesn't deserve a rematch? How can you say that they shouldn't run that back? But then you have Tyron Woodley. He's been out there for a while now. He's been promised a title shot. He's been given that lip service by the UFC. There's who knows about GSP. I don't know if he comes right into a title fight. But again, he's one of the greatest of all time. He held the belt for 6 years. How could he not come back and get a title shot? How can he not come back right into that spot? So I don't think there's a wrong answer. There's gonna be some fans and some fighters upset along the way, kind of the same way that whoever doesn't get the McGregor fight next is gonna be upset, and their fans are gonna be upset. But it's almost a nice problem to have for the UFC, because any way they slice it, people are gonna be mad. But there's really nothing. There's no wrong way to do it. If they do Lawler Condit again, how could anyone really be that upset about that outside of Tyron Woodley and his fans? I mean, I know that sucks, but God, I mean, that was the piece.
I just said all the options are available. GSP is ready and willing to fight again.
So he's ready and willing to fight again.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I throw him right back into a title fight. And what Rory McDonald said over the summer about GSP maybe only coming back for big fights, maybe some super fights, that kind of thing. Maybe that's the path they take with GSP. Maybe not the title. I think they do it again, man. I think they do it again. I think they do Lawler Condit again. I think Tyron Woodley. It really sucks that Hendricks didn't make that fight. It sucks that he went to the hospital, and it's not fair to Woodley at all. But there's so many things that aren't fair in this sport. It just happens, just the way it happens. And Woodley didn't look all that impressive against Gastelum in his last fight last year, and it was a long time ago. I wouldn't mind seeing him get one more fight in there to earn that title shot. And I mean, again, there's no wrong answer, but to me, that fight was so close. There's so much controversy. Even though I scored it for Lawler, I understand people scoring it for Condit. Why not just run that back?
Okay, so then let's go to Mr. McGregor, the man who holds all the cards. So the last time we spoke on this show, he was coming off the win, but we had yet to obviously watch UFC on Fox in Orlando. Everyone was calling him out. I don't think Charles Oliveira is getting him. I think Nate Diaz has a great chance. I think RDA has a great chance. I think Frankie should have a great chance. But I do agree with him. I think he's out of luck, at least for now. What do you do with Conor?
Again, I really think there really is no wrong answer here for that one. And I feel for Frankie, man, because it really has been his title shot for like over a year. This is
it's horrible.
He should have been playing for the title like a year ago, and just the way that things have fallen into place, it hasn't worked out for him. This is the nature of the business, and I'm glad that he came on today and he really spoke his mind.
Did you hear that?
Fired up, man. I love it. I love it from him. I know that he has that in him, but he's, Frankie Edgar is one of the true nice guys in the sport, and he's always been a class act. But good for him for taking, going on the attack today. I think that if Conor truly is going to go to 155, and he's going to fight for the title there, and also keep the featherweight belt, I think that still leaves open a Frankie Edgar fight for this year. So maybe Conor goes up early first half of the year or so. Oh, she's awake now.
Hello.
She's a McGregor fan.
You said Conor, and he's like, oh.
McGregor, So maybe he goes up, he fights RDA for the lightweight title early in the year, March, April, something like that. And maybe if he's not hurt, win or lose, he's still the featherweight champion. He can go back and fight Frankie, at UFC 200. My thing, and I don't know if I don't know if MSG is going to go down. I don't really have a good feeling about that. But man, Conor McGregor versus Frankie Edgar at Madison Square Garden, and an Italian guy from New Jersey, from the Shore, against an Irish guy in New York would be. I mean, I grew up in New York. You lived in New York. Those are two huge populations in New York. That would be insane in that city. It would be nuts.
Let me ask you this. A question I've been asking a lot of people. If Conor McGregor and Frankie Edgar fight at MSG, and by the way, I sit here today, January 4th, I don't think it's happening. I think we're too close to the date, April 23rd. But let's just say, perfect world, wow, we get the gift we've all been asking for, especially East Coast guys. If that fight is happening at MSG and Jones Cormier is also on the table, what's the main event?
I think it's McGregor against Edgar.
Wow.
Honestly.
Tell that to John Jones.
Well, I mean, okay, so John Jones is from New York, but he's from upstate New York. You know, all due respect, but people living in the city don't really consider people who live upstate New Yorkers. I know that sucks to say, but that we don't consider them New Yorkers. We're from the city. So
McGregor Aldo, bigger fight.
McGregor, there's a huge Irish population in New York, man. Yeah. And same, Boston is probably a little bit. I think there's probably more Irish people in New York, but there's a greater percentage of Irish people in Boston. It's a huge percentage, and Italians and Irish, Italian Americans and Irish Americans in New York. That's the two largest ethnicities, probably, as far as like white dudes from Europe. So I think that would just be off the wall at MSG. I think that's a big fight.
That card would sell out in seconds. I wonder what the gate would be. I mean, they could just put on those two fights. They could just put on those two fights and people would be happy.
If they put on both of them, forget it. I mean, that's madness, complete madness.
It is very interesting when you start to consider UFC 200 and the options and the slots they need to fill up beforehand. Like, will the stars align for UFC 200? We'll see. We'll talk about that at a later date. I want to ask you about Stipe Miocic. So he made a big statement. He came out there and he knocked out Andrei Arlovski. He was tremendous. And then he made an even, much like Frankie, a guy who's been reluctant to speak, he spoke. And he got in Dana's face, Lorenzo's face, and said all he had to do. And they even shook hands afterwards. Do you like this call? Does he deserve the next shot at the title?
I mean, does he deserve is a funny word in MMA. I don't know if deserve really means anything. I mean, you can certainly make a case for him. There's no doubt about it. I mean, this guy, to knock out Arlovski in under a minute like that is super impressive. But then you got to look at Overeem. Overeem just knocked out Junior Dos Santos, the guy that beat Stipe last year. So how do you weigh that? There's no exact way to weigh it. I think what will be most interesting moving forward is what happens with Overeem's contract.
Yep.
He's a free agent now. Will the UFC ante up and give him what he wants? Is someone else going to make an offer? Do they have to match? And one of the things that he may negotiate in this deal, which I believe Gilbert Melendez did as well, was a title shot.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't mind that. You know what? I mean, if you're a free agent and you have that leverage, go for it, man. I don't see anything wrong with negotiating a title shot if that's what you want. I'm all about fighters trying to get as much as possible from promotions, and that's what Overeem wants to do. And if that's what the UFC agrees to, I'm all for that happening next. I have no problem with Overeem fighting for the title next. I think we have to wait and see what happens with Verdum against Velasquez. If Verdum wins, how can you not say Overeem should be there? He's already beaten Verdum. He was the Strikeforce champion. Verdum was the challenger, and he beat Verdum. How can you not say Overeem deserves that shot? If Kane wins, we don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing either one of those guys against Kane, but it's really up to Overeem if that's what he wants. If the UFC gives him the contract, matches the deal, whatever. It's gonna be what the decides it probably.
And also, don't forget, January 30th, across the river in Newark, what if Ben Rothwell, who has a win over Overeem, comes out and annihilates Josh Barnett? He has a strong case as well.
He does, and I don't see that happening. I think that's I actually love that fight. I think I don't think he's gonna destroy him. I think it's gonna be an awesome fight.
Yeah.
But I think that even though Ben Rothwell has beaten Overeem, I don't know if his stock is that high right now. But again, we don't know. If he does let's say he does destroy Josh Barnett. We don't know. Then you have three guys who could vie for the title. And there's no wrong answer. I think Overeem, as far as like a draw, is probably a little bit better than those other two guys. I think that he's a more well-known guy. He's been around for a long time. He has like a cult following, Overeem. I think a lot of people like him. And I think if you want to do the best draw and the best possible, the biggest fight, it's probably Overeem. But you can make a case for any one of those guys. And I don't think, you shouldn't be upset if any one of those guys gets it if Rothwell does destroy Barnett.
Speaking of cult followings, no one in MMA, maybe in the history of MMA, has a greater cult following than Fedor Emelianenko. And he returned late last week. Rizin, new promotion, headed up by former boss of one Pride FC, Nobuyuki Sakakibara. Wow, what a show this was! Yes, and it was there was pomp, there was circumstance, there was the freak show aspect. It was everything you love out of Japanese MMA New Year's Eve. I believe you watched most of it, if not all of it.
I watched all of it.
Which I mean, being on the West Coast kind of helps a little bit. But what did you make? What kind of grade would you give Rizin for their first couple events? Maybe
like a C+, a B-, somewhere in that range.
I thought the fanboy in you would have given it an A at least, maybe an A-.
I mean, look. I mean, I actually really enjoyed it. I really had a good time, watching it. Especially, I think people said that the better fights were on the first day. I actually really enjoyed that last day a lot, and it felt like it flew by to me. It was like, oh, it's 3 a.m. already. I can't believe it. Like I enjoyed it. There was some terrible stuff. The Bob Sapp Akimono fight. Yeah. I don't even know what that was.
That was my favorite fight, coincidentally.
That was interesting. That was very interesting.
Crying, the upset win.
It was unique, but overall, I really enjoyed it. But if I'm being objective, there wasn't, was there a lot of high quality. The thing about Pride is that they mixed the weird freak show stuff with some really, really good fights. The best guys in the world at that point. There was so much talent on that roster. It was crazy. So it didn't quite have that, but it had the entertainment aspect. There was plenty of entertainment. There's no doubt about that. I think that if you can't sit and enjoy that, at least just to let yourself go and enjoy that, I'm not really sure. I mean, it's prize fighting at the end of the day. This is. I know people like to paint it as sport and everything, and yeah, it's a sport, but it's entertainment.
Are you doing this again? Are you not calling MMA a sport again?
It's sport, but it's supposed to be fun.
It's 2016. I'm trying to give you a new persona, a new gimmick, and then here you go back to being the heel, hating on the sport.
2016 is going to be even worse. But
at least you didn't call it beautiful violence.
It was. I just think that if you can't sit and enjoy just the weird stuff, it's fun. What's the point? Yeah, the fights don't mean anything. Yes, there's no one's ranked. Who cares?
Sure. I agree.
I can enjoy it.
Although I must say, like what King Mo did, there's something about King Mo wearing shoes in Japan that equals magic. and quick side note, to walk down to the lobby of our hotel on Saturday morning and to see King Mo rocking the Bellator sweatshirt, sitting in the lobby, came all the way from Japan to corner his guy, Robbie Lawler. And what's funny about that is on Friday, a lot of the ATT coaches made a point to tell me that he might be the greatest teammate in the history of ATT. Like, this guy goes out of his way, he's unselfish, and then I see him just chilling there. Wow, what can you say about King Mo, who won that tournament, who seems to have reinvigorated his career as of late? I thought that was the performance of the whole thing he was kind of the breakout star. There was other stuff that was fun. I thought Gabby Garcia was fun as well. I want to see. Look, King Mo versus Fedor. I feel like that's the fight to make for them, right? Isn't that especially for Japan?
But does Fedor actually want to fight legitimate opponents? That's the question. I mean, that's really the big question. If he's just back to make some money and fight some guys who are borderline and maybe they'll be somewhat exciting fights, that's fine.
Are you okay with that? Are you okay with that?
Fashion. I'm fine with that, man. Like
you're fine. I don't know. You're fine with that? Like the supposed greatest of all time, if you want to call him that, that's fine. Don't forget, I was on TV arguing with Dana White about whether or not he was the best. So don't come at me with like I'm a hater or whatever. But
no, I understand.
This is akin to Michael Jordan coming back and playing in the D League, or the CBA if it existed. Like I kind of want what? No,
you can't compare this to other sports, man.
I know.
Look, from the perspective of a fighter, from get your money, man. Get that paper. I don't care. If that's what it comes down to,
yes,
that's what you got to do.
That's what I said. But the promoters should be doing more, no?
But you work in conjunction with the fighter. Fedor is not going to come back and fight someone who doesn't want to fight. That's just not the way it works. He has a lot of leverage in the situation. He's headlining these events. They're building everything around him. Listen, if that's what he wants to do, I'm cool with it. Would I like to still see him against some of the top guys in the world? Do I think he can still compete at that level? I don't see why not, honestly. I mean, there are guys. How many guys in that UFC heavyweight division did we say were washed up 6 years ago? A lot of them.
That's why I want to see him. Okay, let me ask you this. King Mo fights Fedor in April, June, July, whatever. Who wins?
I think King Mo wins, honestly. I think King.
Whoa.
I'm on the King Mo bandwagon right now.
With shoes.
Yes. It's all about the shoes.
It's all about the shoes.
I think King Mo, man, like he had a lot of injuries and issues early in his career. Guy's got a complete game, got a great training camp, well coached. I think the guy is he could be a top 205er. I don't see any reason why not.
Okay, a couple more things I want to talk to you about before we have to let you go. Holly Holm will be joining us in a matter of moments. Talk about going from the outhouse to the penthouse there on that one as far as back-to-back guests. Do you share I don't this is kind of like McGregor Aldo to me for different reasons, but Cruz Dillashaw happening in less than 2 weeks. I still can't really wrap my head around that. And then they dropped this I don't know what it was called, this back and forth with John Anik. I had some people text me that they hated that because it made Dillashaw kind of look weak. It did, in a sense that, Cruz was winning that exchange, but I can't even fully verbalize how I feel about this fight, like how much I love this fight, the feelings I have towards this fight. I can't even believe it's happening so soon. It crept up on us, and I'm happy with that. I'm okay with that because I don't want anything to happen. Do you share my excitement here with this fight? I feel like this is my fight for 2016. I can't think of anything better than Cruz Dillashaw.
It's unbelievable. I love it so much. I don't think it's going to be the sheer violence that Lawler against Condit provided, but as far as technical, acumen, these guys are incredible. I mean, I can't wait to see that fight. I agree. I'm right with you there. And that little snippet they showed on Saturday night from Ultimate Insider with John Anik, man, I would rather fight Dominic Cruz than get into an argument with that guy. Man, he just beats you down.
Yeah,
it's just mauling when that dude is just a verbal savage. He gives 0 Fs Dominic Cruz when in front of the cameras. He'll just smash people verbally. I think it's phenomenal. I love when that guy is in front of a mic. I want to watch it.
So
underrated talker.
Absolutely. And great analyst as well. It was a shame that we only got him for 66 seconds when
smart.
When Cerrone fought RDA. So I was arguing with our pal Casey about this. So Dillashaw tweets a picture of Lance Palmer and Joseph Benavidez in Denver helping him train for this fight, and that's cool. But when you consider the fact that Uriah Faber is next, and at least unless we are in the dark here, they're still members of Team Alpha Male. How do you feel if you're Uriah and you see that? Is that cool? As long as they don't help, because at some point these guys are gonna have to decide, right? If Dillashaw wins, you're gonna have to choose if you're on Team Faber or Team Dillashaw.
Well, I think didn't Lance Palmer say a few weeks ago that he isn't sure who would corner?
Yeah, I'm on this show.
Right? Yeah, he said. Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
But he said he isn't sure who would corner Faber against Dillashaw. I mean, look, that's a really awkward situation, and unless you're actually there and you're actually involved and in it with those guys, you don't really know exactly what's going on. But it's got to be a little weird for sure. I don't know what exactly is going to happen, but there's got to be some weird, strange, awkward feelings on both sides. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see if they bring Faber to Boston. I know there's been some talks of that. That will be because you can't lose if you're Faber in this situation. You fight Cruz again, third time, you get Dillashaw. I mean, it's amazing that the guy continues to be a part of it.
Next. I mean, sorry, Rafael Alonso and guys like that. Faber's next, no matter who wins that fight, no doubt.
By the way, where are we at with the whole weight cutting issue in MMA? You went to that seminar. A lot of bigwigs were there. Is anything going to change? One FC is making some radical changes. Anything going to change this year?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm not confident that anything's going to change. I think that everyone's going to take a long look at what ONE FC does, and I like it, but anytime you make these sweeping changes and you don't really like consider the fighters, and the fighters don't really have any kind of collective bargaining in that, it's tough. But it seems like a plan that will be hard to game, because you have to almost be at weight 8 weeks out, and they're going to be doing like hydration tests and whatever. As far as the states, it's so much harder to get things changed. ONE FC can snap their fingers and say, okay, this is how we're going to do it now. In the U.S., with all the commissions, every state has to agree to it. The UFC has to agree to it. It's like, the Association of Boxing Commissions has to, send it through. It's hard to do. If the UFC said tomorrow, hey, we're going to do this, I think everyone else would probably fall in line. But I don't know if that's going to happen. It's a huge change. It's a big change. A lot of fighters will not be happy.
It's interesting. Biggest year in the history of the UFC last year. They said they made around $600 million, but yet we are often reminded just how young this sport is, with the judging, refereeing, weight cutting, drug testing, the IV, all this. I mean, it's just amazing. Even the sponsorship and Reebok. I mean, the sport is still so young and fresh, and has yet to truly evolve. Like, we're in the 1930s of pro baseball. Okay, we have
5 years from now, we're going to look back and say, like, wait, guys really cut like 25 pounds the week of the fight and thought they were actually going to be more effective in the fight. It doesn't make any sense.
And no one is more subjected to this than me, I have to say, because I'm back there for those weigh-in shows for Fox, and I got to interview these guys. It's so awkward. They can hardly speak. Their faces, I mean, it's not good. And
the only reason why fighters cut is to be bigger than their opponents. But if there's a system in place where everyone is actually fighting at their true natural weight, there would be no reason to cut weight, right? You would think?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Okay, what is this? Yes, New York Rick, we are. Okay, we have 4 minutes left. I want to play a little game with you, all right?
Man.
It's called Fact or Fiction. Have you heard of it? It's very original. I just came up with it myself. I'm stealing it from
Sure.
John Pollock. John Pollock likes to have me on his show, the MMA Report. We play Likely Unlikely. So I'm just going to switch it and do Fact or Fiction. I'm going to run down a few things. You tell me fact or fiction. These things will happen in 2016, okay?
Okay, let's do it.
Joe Rogan leaves the UFC.
Fiction.
Zuffa sells the UFC.
Fiction.
Bjorn Rebney returns to MMA.
Fiction. Non-compete, son.
UFC 200 breaks the UFC 100 pay-per-view record.
Fact.
Cyborg fights in the UFC.
Fiction.
GSP fights in the UFC.
Fiction.
Jesus, you're a boatload of fun. Gina Carano fights again.
Fiction.
Conor McGregor becomes a two-weight class world champion.
Fact.
Anderson Silva fights for a UFC title.
Fiction.
Carlos Condit fights in 2016 again.
Fact.
Dallas Cowboys Stadium, whatever it's called, AT&T Stadium, will host an MMA event.
Fiction, but we'll get 7 more questions about it on conference call.
World Series of Fighting ceases to exist.
Fiction.
Ben Askren fights in the UFC.
Fiction.
Have you said any facts? Nick Diaz fights in 2016.
Nick Diaz?
Yes, Nick.
Fact.
Fact?
Facts.
Holly Holm fights someone not named Ronda Rousey before fighting Ronda Rousey.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'll say fiction.
Ronda Rousey fights at all.
She'll fight, yeah. Fact.
Stick to the script here. You have to say fact. Fedor Emelianenko fights inside the UFC octagon.
Fiction.
Someone not named Ariel Helwani will host the MMA Hour.
Fact. This guy. Here.
That wasn't a question. That man will be a guy named New York Rick.
Fact.
That's definitely wrong. Frankie Edgar will fight for a UFC title. Doesn't matter the weight class, UFC title.
Fact.
Jose Aldo will fight for a UFC title.
Fiction.
Sage Northcutt will remain undefeated.
Fiction.
Herschel Walker will fight in MMA.
Fiction.
2 more. Khabib Nurmagomedov will fight for the UFC title.
Fiction.
Luke Rockhold will be UFC middleweight champion this time next year.
Fact.
There you go. Was that fun or what?
That was fantastic.
Did you enjoy it? We're gonna take this clip and we'll play it next year and see how wrong you were. I think you had like 3 facts in there.
Yeah, well, you know, keeping it real.
Keeping it real. When keeping it real goes wrong, you get Mark Ramundi. There you have it. Mark, great job, my friend. That was good insight. Enjoy your work. Appreciate your work. Keep it up in 2016, and try not to get us in too much trouble. All right? I'm gonna hang up on you now.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
There he is, our own Mark Ramundi. Great stuff from him, as always. Little fact or fiction here on the MMA Hour. All right, let's move along now. And what a pleasure it is to kick off our first show of the year, our award show, with someone who made perhaps the biggest impact of them all in 2015, the one and only Holly Holm, the UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion. She joins us on the phone. Holly, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
I'm doing so great. I'm so happy that you're back. You spoke to every single media outlet. You went around the world, but you're back where you belong right here on the MMA Hour.
I'm so happy you guys have the time for me. I'm back.
Yes.
I've been traveling, but it feels good to be back in the gym. Sorry, it's kind of loud. I'm actually walking out of the gym right now.
Oh.
Had some good training this morning.
Is this your first time at the gym since winning the belt? Not to visit the gym, but to actual train?
No, I've come in a couple times just when I've been home for a couple days. You know, I always said this is the one place where I can feel the most normal. You know, kind of get out of all the busyness of everything and just kind of get into the gym. And that's what it's all about. All this media has been around the win. You know, and the win was victory because of something I'm passionate about. You know, it's all about the training and what's kind of in my heart, and that's just loving the sport. So good to just get in the gym and just train.
You've won titles before, but that first day back at the gym to try to, rev it up again and sort of outdo what you did in Melbourne, was that kind of tough? Like, is it hard? I know you're motivated always. You want to defend the title, all that, but is it hard to like get going again after you go on this victory tour?
I think the biggest thing is just, I don't want people to think that this is like some kind of a one-hit wonder type thing. And so I have the motivation to get into the gym and just be better every day. I don't want to stop here. I don't want to feel like I've made it somewhere. I want to feel like I'm still climbing the ladder. I want to still feel like I'm going somewhere. I'm shooting for something big.
I have some guesses, but I want to hear from you. What was the coolest thing to happen to you as a result of winning the belt? Something someone said, someone that you met, a moment. Is there something that comes to mind, the coolest part of this whole, it's been an unbelievable whirlwind, less than 2 months for you. Is there something that sticks out?
Every time somebody asks me that, the number one thing I think of is, the win is just so exciting. Nothing beats that. But, yeah, I did just this. There's a lot of people I got to meet. My gosh. There's a lot of celebrities and everything, but, getting to meet John Elway was,
yes,
he's a legend, and that's just something, who gets to say that? And that is definitely something that I'll always remember. And not only that it's him, it's that, sometimes you have this, like, idea in your head and you, like, admire someone and think how awesome they are, and then you meet them and you're like, well, I don't know, they're not that cool, like, But with him, it was like, oh, my gosh, I don't even know if it's possible to be more of a fan of John Elway, but he was so awesome. Just so down to earth and so, kind of patient with, how many people do probably ask to meet him, at every game? And I just told him, I said, that's only if he's not busy doing stuff. I don't want to be, I don't want to be that fan. So, because they asked if I wanted to meet him. And I said, only if it's, not an inconvenience, because they got business to do today, and they're like, no, we wouldn't say it if he wouldn't be happy to meet you too. So, just one of the coolest guys ever. I'm just really impressed.
And he knew who you were. Yeah,
but who knows? Maybe he knew exactly who I was, and maybe they prepped him. Hey, this is Holly. She just fought for the title.
He knows who you are.
You never know. I'll take it either way.
The picture that you post on your Instagram, it's your wonderful husband, Jeff, one of my favorite people in the world. What a guy. You are a lucky woman. He's just such a sweet man. And then you and then John Elway. But the look on your face, you are glowing in that picture. Like you could just see the happiness oozing out of your face. It's a beautiful picture.
Oh, thank you. It was. I'm so glad that I can have my husband there to. I mean, some of the stuff's no fun to experience if you don't have the people with you to experience it with. So. And he's always so supportive in some of the things that I want to do, even outside of fighting. So it was a really good day. It was a really fun time.
I asked you on the Thursday before the fight in Melbourne, have you envisioned what it would be like to win and how your life will change? Did you think it would happen like this? Like, did you think it would be this crazy?
I guess, I just thought I don't want to think too much of how it will be. I want to visualize just to have that in my head, but I also just want to focus on, the task at hand and then kind of just go from there. And I didn't think that it would be this fast, it was like immediate. But I guess I didn't really think about it. I mean, it was a big victory, and of course that's because Ronda's been so dominant. I give her credit because there's no way that this win could be that big. If she wouldn't have been that dominant. It kind of goes hand in hand. So I didn't think it would be this big, but it's been definitely just an awesome experience.
I had the pleasure of being in Albuquerque just a few days after the win, and it was like an emotional experience for me just to be there and not only talk to your teammates, which we put this video together, and I have to say, it was so cool of you to give it a shout out on the Huffington Post. That blew me away and says a lot about who you are as a person, but getting a chance when I went with John Jones to these schools, and he would go to kids and say, do you guys know who I am? Some people would raise their hands. Then he would say, do you know who Holly Holm is? This is after the win. And everyone raised their hands, started cheering, started clapping. It was just amazing to see. And it was such a pleasure to see just how big of a star I didn't really quite understand it. And then we see the parade that you get. Did you recognize, did you know how big of a deal you were before all of this?
Albuquerque's always been so supportive, and that is one thing. I'm not going to say that I wasn't surprised. I mean, I'm blessed and honored that many people were that happy, but Albuquerque's always been that supportive that I've seen them be that great, and that supportive. So it's not like out of character for Albuquerque to support, I guess is what it is. It's not like this is the first time that they've come together and supported me. I don't know if that makes sense. It was that big of a deal right now, so I don't want to take away from that when I talk about them, but I want to say that it didn't surprise me that much because their character has always been supportive. And a lot of people were, some people have asked me like, oh my gosh, is it nice to get back home and get back to the peace and quiet? Aren't you so glad you don't live like in a big city? And I'm like, oh, you guys understand. Albuquerque's like crazy. Like they love it. They are the biggest fight town ever. And it's big enough that you have a support and small enough that everybody knows you, So it's kind of a next door neighbor type deal. And everybody's really loving and supporting here. It's definitely, I'm very blessed.
What was it like to see the emotion on your teammates' faces in that video, but also when you got back to the gym and you see just how much it's rare in life that we get to see how much respect that our peers have for us, our friends have for us, how much they love us. I mean, you sometimes hear this when someone dies, but you're getting this amazing coronation and shower with love in the prime of your life after the greatest moment of your life. And these people are just talking about you. Like you could tell no one is lying. They truly love you and think the world of you. Like when John Dodson said that if they could send someone to space just to show the greatest, of humanity, they should send you. You feel that he actually means that. What's that like for you to hear all of this?
Well, that video, probably the best video.
Thank you.
It just, when people ask about our team, and I tell them it's like family, I think a lot of people say that, but they don't really realize our team really is like family, And I think that finally got displayed publicly.
What was it like when you got back to the gym? What kind of reception did you get?
Oh, it was awesome. I came in the middle of training, and people just in the middle of sparring just kind of ran over, give me a hug, like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you, and just kind of. I know I had told my husband, I said, I'm going to go to practice today. Or I said, I'm going to go down to the gym today. He's like, oh, you're going to go practice? I was like, no. I'm just going to say hi. Like, I literally had, 72 hours to be home before I was gone again. And I just thought, I'm just going to go in and I just want to go see the team. I just want to go say thank you because this victory is not possible without them. And that's all I wanted to do is just go see the team.
And I could see, you speak of that family atmosphere. I saw you backstage after the Condit fight, and you could see, how upset everyone was. I don't know if I've ever seen Greg Jackson that upset before. What was that like for you to see a fellow Albuquerque native, but more so a friend and teammate, come so close yet again, and now talk about retirement? How much pain do you have for your friend now?
I truly, truly feel like Carlos won that fight. And it's disheartening. And a lot of people say, well, in your heart, you won. That's at least he knows. And it's like, well, that doesn't really do it. I mean, and this is not to take nothing away from Robbie Lawler. I really like Robbie Lawler. I think he's a great champion. He's always shown a lot of potential, never been over, cocky, nothing like that. But in the simple fact, I really feel like Carlos won the fight, and you can't go back and change any of that. And I just feel like, especially for a title, I think a lot of people just, you put so much time and effort and energy into a training camp, and then to not, come out with the win. And don't get me wrong, Robbie had some awesome moments in the fight. I just really felt like Carlos won, and it's disheartening when you see how much work your teammate goes through, and then to have it come out like that just kind of is a sour feeling,
Did you say anything to him afterwards? And if so, what? I can't imagine going up to a friend after a moment like that.
I just saw him for a second in the back. He was walking up. I just gave him a hug, and I said, that was you, and you did what it took. And that was kind of it. It was just in the middle of a walk. I didn't really talk to him too much, and that was about it.
You're actually the best person to ask this question to. 10-point must system. It's a boxing system. Does that work for MMA, or do you think MMA should have its own system for scoring?
I think it works. Because the only thing really different in boxing is standing 8 counts, and you don't even have that in MMA. If the fight stopped, it's just stopped. I'm sorry. Well, you don't have standing 8 counts in boxing, but and I don't know if you know what that means. So, if you're standing up and a ref has to stop you, that means the fight's over. If you get dropped to a knee and you get back up, then you get an 8 count. And that none of that obviously is in MMA. If you stop it, it's just done at any point. Whether if the ref comes in, you're just stopping it at any point. That means somebody's about to go out, But I don't know. It's kind of a hard one to tell. I think I don't know. And there's a little difference in MMA too, because if in boxing, if you get dropped on a knee and you get back up and they have a standing 8 count, that's an automatic point deduction. When in MMA, that's not necessarily the case. If you get dropped from a punch and get back up and keep fighting, and so I actually think that it is more catered to MMA. It's not the exact scoring as boxing.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at the fight, I think that Carlos had 3 rounds. And even the rounds that, the last round, Robbie really had him hurt, so you can't take that away from Robbie. Carlos still was doing a lot of scoring beforehand, but Robbie really had him. He almost had him out in the last round, But it's still just a round out of 5, Round 2, he clipped Carlos. So, if I would have been judging the fight, I probably would have done 3 rounds to 2. And I think that that's still as far as the scoring system, I think that it's fine. I mean, I guess it just depends on who's actually scoring it and how they're looking at the fight.
Okay, let's transition to your present because I know your time is limited. And again, thank you so much for coming on. You have been very much in demand, so I really appreciate it. ESPN.com reported late last night that you've signed a new contract with the UFC. Is that accurate?
It's accurate.
Can you tell us about it?
Well, if I fight sooner than later, it'll be it won't be a rematch, but there's still possible for a rematch. They haven't really announced anything, exact yet, so I guess we'll just kind of wait and see how the cards unfold. But I'm not going anywhere. I'll be fighting, hopefully sooner than later, and just get back in there and do what I love to do.
So that is your preference. You don't want to wait July or after. You want to get in there sooner rather than later. When you say that, is there a month that is perfect for you, an ideal situation?
I don't really think of an exact time. I just don't want to wait around for things if they're not set in stone. A lot of people have been talking about the rematch, but nobody's really even knows for sure if Ronda. I haven't really even heard if she really wants it yet or not, or if she's occupied with some other things right now. So I think that's the hardest part for me, is that if I knew something was going to be for sure set in stone, maybe I would think about it a little more. But I don't know. I don't want to wait around for something that may not happen. You know, I want to be able to fight soon. I like being active because I love the sport, and I want to keep that true to me. I don't want to get so involved with all this traveling around that, I lose sight of what I don't think I will, because I just love to fight. But I think that's why I like to fight sooner than later. It's like, this is now, this is the time, this is what I love to do, and I want to keep doing what I love to do.
Is it fair to guess that if Ronda is in next, it will be Miesha Tate?
That's a fair guess. I think that fight makes a lot of sense to people. She was kind of the one that was in line for the title before they gave the fight to me, and I think people are curious to see how it will go, because this is a whole different title fight now. There's this big talk about, is there going to be a third, Ronda-Miesha fight, and here we are with a whole new situation now. So I think that a lot of people want to see it, and I think it'd be awesome to challenge myself with another fighter. If the rematch comes, then great. But I definitely want to keep fighting whoever's in front of me.
And are you happy with the new deal? Like, did they up things because you're the champ now and you're this mega celebrity and all that? Did they do right by you?
I'm happy with it. But I'm always happy with it because I just see it as a opportunity. I mean, I never felt like I would actually. I always fought and thought, you know what? I think I can support myself with fighting. I think this can be my career, but I never really felt like, wow, I'm actually going to be able to put some money aside and have money for the future, and so I'm very happy with it. I'm happy for the opportunities, and I want to make sure and make that all worth something. I don't want to have this new contract and then be a letdown. I want to show them that I'm worth something, and I want to show them that I'm going to be a good champion, and that's my motivation, to just keep getting better.
By the way, an interview just came through on FoxSports.com by Damon Martin with your longtime agent and promoter, I should say, Lenny Fresquez, and he said, quote, "The UFC will be having an announcement this week, and they'll be announcing it regarding your next fight."
Yeah, they'll be announcing it.
Oh, you could do it here if you want.
No, I can't, because I know he's so mad. I'll let them announce it, and we'll. I'm pretty sure it'll be within the next. It'll be soon.
By the way, side note, that serenading that you got from the Irish fans, that one guy in particular, did you enjoy that? Was that awkward for you? I thought it was is unbelievably endearing, and it just was everything.
Loved it.
You liked it? Okay, I wasn't sure.
No, I loved it. I love when people are just loving life, having a good time, and a lot of actually some of the Irish fans came up to me and they were like, "Oh man, like, we're kind of sorry about the Q&A. Like, some of the people were kind of being like, a little crazy." And I'm like, "You guys, I would much rather have a Q&A like that with like fun and personality and having a good time than like you can hear crickets in the background in between each question,
Yeah.
Like, I like to have fun with people. I'm serious all the time in the gym. I'm serious, in training, and I just, I thought it was awesome. And I don't think that's ever happened before in a Q&A, so I'll take it.
Yes.
I got the first serenade. I loved it. I thought it was fun.
If you were Ronda Rousey's coach manager, do you think it's in her best interest not to fight you in her first fight back? From a fighter's perspective, does that make sense to come back against the person who just, took you out in spectacular fashion? Should you build yourself back up?
Well, I have two thoughts about that. So I got knocked out by Anne-Sophie Matisse in the 7th round of a boxing match in the very end of 2011. In December of 2011. I had no fight in between. I rematched her in June of 2012, 6 months later. And I came back and I avenged my loss. So I think I would be foolish to think somebody else couldn't do the same. I've done it before. On the other note, the flip side of that, in that fight when I got knocked out, I actually was doing very well for the first 4 rounds. Round 5, she kind of clipped me with a shot. Round 6, she dropped me. Round 7, she knocked me out. So I think it's just, but I knew that I was technically doing well. I knew that I was competitive. So in my mind, I knew that I could do it. And I think that, was maybe something that I took so in a positive way to be ready for that rematch. So I guess it just depends on where her mental game is, but I will never underestimate her. She's done well and had a lot of victories. So if she comes back, I will expect the very best Ronda. I've done it before, so I'd be dumb to think that somebody else couldn't.
By the way, how do you feel about Ronda Rousey right now? Because on the one hand, I can see there being some animosity. I mean, she went in front of the world and said you're fake, and that attack seemed a little bit, I mean, and especially after talking to everyone that knows you and doesn't know you, I mean, no one says anything remotely close to that. And you fought her and you took her title, all that. But on the other hand, her whole life has changed and people came out of the woodwork and danced on her grave and just, so how do you feel about it? Like, what are your thoughts towards her as just a human being?
I don't think anybody deserves that. I do think that she put herself in that position just kind of, she's even said herself that, if people don't like her style, then she doesn't care. This is who she is, and she's not going to pretend to be anybody else. And I don't have any animosity towards her. I mean, I don't know. A lot of people feel like maybe I should, but I don't waste energy with stuff like that. I think she's been a champion for a reason. She's been confident in herself, and she's done well with a lot of things like that. So I don't know. I don't have any animosity towards her. I don't think that some of the negativity that she's received is necessarily, that's not, some of it's not necessary. People get pretty brutal about stuff, but I think she's tough enough. She can handle it. I don't think she's ever felt like something like this before. I think she is going through a really rough time. I'd be dumb if I said anything different. But
does that make you feel bad?
Not bad enough that I would change the decision.
Right.
I mean, I always sympathize with my opponents no matter what. If you win, they're going home with a bad day. That doesn't mean that I want to give them the victory, but I do sympathize with it, and I have compassion towards it. I don't ever want someone. You feel sadness when you lose. Like, I don't want anybody to really feel sadness. I think that the things that can make me feel the most sad for other people is if they feel lonely or kind of by themselves in this world. And I think right now she might be doing some soul searching and kind of just keeping to herself a little bit. I hope she can bounce right back from it because she has been a good champion. I do have some sympathy for it, but like I said, not enough to change it.
Two last quick things. Were you disappointed? She came out with a small statement on Instagram, did one interview since. She didn't say congratulations or anything like that. I don't know if she did it in person. Were you disappointed about that?
No. I just like to know that for me, I want to carry myself a certain way, and I don't really mind how other people do it because that's their deal. As long as I carry myself how I feel is respectful, I'm only in charge of myself. And she has to be kind of bitter right now, and that's okay. I really just want to do my thing and represent myself well, and I'll give her the respect along the way. And however she handles it is her own deal. I don't want to lose sleep over it.
Yep, very well said. And this is the big one that we've been debating, and I even asked Coach Wink about this. Did Holly Holm kind of play possum in her first 2 UFC fights? Were you holding back a little bit to shock everyone when you fought Ronda? Did that really happen? Because if so, you deserve all the awards in the world for that. I mean, that's been thrown out there. Is that true?
I think I could have done more in those fights, but I was being a little cautious, maybe learning along the way. But there was nothing intentional. Like, I was never thinking, oh, I'm not going to show anybody until, the big fight. I mean, that never crossed my mind. I do feel, I kept telling people I know that I have better potential than what I've shown. And I did feel true with that. I knew I was capable of more, but I knew I had to perform it. And, I never sat aside and thought I'm going to just play possum. I wanted the victories in those. And there was a few things going on for those fights. My first UFC fight, I was coming off really big injuries, and I've never been injured like that in a fight before. I've never had to pull out of a fight from an injury. I've never had to, kind of go through a lot of that. And so a lot of it was kind of those nerves. But I didn't play possum, no.
Okay.
I just knew I was capable of more.
You could have said yes, and it would have made you even cooler. But I appreciate the honesty.
I know. I didn't want to lie, though.
I appreciate that. That sums you up very nicely. Okay, so this is our award show, and what an honor and treat this is. So before I let you go, how about I give you the awards that you won from this show? And I know you've won the title, and you've met everyone, Floyd Mayweather and all these, Beyonce, all these people. But I have a feeling that the honors that I'm about to bestow upon you, greater than all of those combined. And
let me hear it.
Okay, so both my producer and I, New York Rick, we have given you the Female Fighter of the Year. So congratulations.
Oh,
There you go, some applause.
I'm honored. Thank you so much.
You
guys are great.
Easy. That was an easy one. I have given you the Knockout of the Year. Easy.
Oh my gosh.
Easy. No applause for knockout? Okay, there we go. There's applause. I have given you the Upset of the Year, even though I know you didn't believe it was the upset, but that was the Upset of the Year. And New York Rick has given you the Moment of the Year. You had the Moment of the Year when the world stopped. So how about that? 5 awards.
Holy cow. I don't even know what to say.
Life just gets better.
I'm so honored. You guys are so great. And I'll keep trying my best to not let this be the only time that there's something exciting like that. I want to keep showing you guys, and hopefully I'll get another award because that means I'm getting better.
Well, you deserve it all. Again, congratulations. Really appreciate the time, and it couldn't have happened to a better person. Keep enjoying the victory, but can't wait for the next one. Even though you didn't announce the news here, I'll let it slide. We're cool. I understand.
All right. Thanks.
And we'll talk to you soon.
I don't want to get in trouble.
I understand. I don't want to get you. That's the last thing I want. So enjoy it. Again, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon. Really happy for you, Holly.
So
Happy New Year.
Thank you. and thank you for my awards. I'm so honored. Have a happy New Year.
All right, there she is, Holly Holm. What can you say about Holly Holm, the preacher's daughter? What a joy. That was fun. Last year, remember, we had Robbie Lawler on to give him the Fight of the Year. Now we just gave her almost all the awards, but that's not true because we have 22 awards to give out. So let's do it. You guys ready?
We're ready. We got the whole crew back here.
Nice applause, by the way.
Yeah. We're stepping it up.
So what do you think, by the way? Do you think that it's Misha Tate?
Seems that way, right?
Yeah. Are you okay with that?
Love that fight.
No, but do you think it's smart to do? Because, it was sort of debated. Do you risk it? It's a big money fight, UFC 200.
From whose perspective?
From the UFC's perspective, from a business perspective.
I think it is a risk, but they're banking on Holly Holm, and I think it's a reasonable thing to do.
And you have to wonder, can she turn around? And you also have to wonder, I'm starting to hear, I don't know if Ronda Rousey's going to be available in July. I mean, it's already January. Multiple injuries, like physical injuries, emotional injuries. There's the movie stuff. So I feel like you kind of have to, you can't revolve your whole year around UFC 200, right?
I have a feeling that that's part of the decision.
Right.
That makes it so it makes it a lot easier. If Ronda can't be ready by then you have to keep Holly active. She wants to be active.
And Misha, you can't go Amanda Nunes. It's got to be Misha, right?
It's got to be Misha.
Who's your pick?
That's a tough fight. I would go Holly. It's hard to get over what we just saw. I'm not about to use MMA math and say that Holly beat Ronda, who beat Misha. But I think the performance that we just saw from Holly is pretty good, and I'd be confident picking Holly.
Will Holly be the betting favorite in your opinion?
For sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's fun. I wonder what they do, but it sounds like we're going to get an announcement soon. Remember,
I'll tell you this, she won't be as big a betting favorite as Ronda was over her.
Of course, yeah. UFC 197 is looking for a fight or two as far as headline, co-headline, looking for a venue. I knew this drew the ire of some, but it does not appear to be in Rio anymore, March 5th. I would expect an announcement. From what I heard, they wanted to announce this weekend. Didn't happen. Let's see what they come up with, but, read between the lines. Let's get to the awards, shall we? Here we go. One of my favorite episodes of the year. It's award season. Did you bring your tux? No. What do you got? Okay, so we got 22 categories.
21.
22. Did I count one twice?
I think you counted one twice.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
21. We added one or two new ones. And I don't think we did this last year, but this year we're actually going to tell you who we picked last year just to see, if there are any changes, maybe repeat winners. I think that's a fun little wrinkle.
Correct. We did not do that last year, but I think it'll be interesting to look back because we did those at the end of the year, and some of it's indicative of what happened in 2015. Those are the people who were at the top at 2015 at the end of 2014. So,
how do you feel about the award show taking place in 2016? Like, are we ready to move on from 2015, or is this the right way to go about it?
You have to do it properly.
Yeah.
You have to get all of them in. Ryzen had an event. The UFC had another event since our last show. So you have to do it properly.
Okay, let's do it. First category: male fighter of the year.
Easiest one on the docket.
Where's my lower third? Alex sleeping back there. I need the lower third. It has to be right.
Don't worry, it's there.
Okay. First category: male fighter of the year. Last year, you picked.
I picked Robbie Lawler.
Yeah, so I don't have your picks. You got to tell me who your pick is, all right?
I picked Robbie Lawler.
I picked Robbie Lawler as well. This year, your pick is?
Conor McGregor.
Why?
No doubt about it. Just if you take the 3 wins, Dennis Siver, Chad Mendes, Jose Aldo, that's an impressive list on its own. Those are 3 high level guys. Chad Mendes, a perennial contender. Dennis Siver, no slouch himself. And then Jose Aldo, what we considered one of the pound for pound best ever. But then you take into account the fact that he was likely injured in the fight with Chad Mendes. The reports are whatever they are.
Oh, he was injured.
And we don't, they want to downplay the extent of the injury because they don't want to, make it into a story. But he was injured. When you consider all the stakes that he was continuing to raise the bar and continuing to up the stakes himself in 2015, when you consider all the media obligations that he never missed any, that he continued to be the poster boy for the UFC, when you consider that after all that, he coached tough. Whether what you thought of him as a coach or how directly involved he was aside, he took on the responsibility of coaching tough. And when you consider all that, and that none of the fighters that I mentioned in those 3 fights lasted more than 2 rounds, including Jose Aldo only lasting 13 seconds, nobody had a better 2015 than Conor McGregor. And I'm not even going to mention the numbers, Ariel. I'm not even going to mention those.
Which numbers? Like the actual
all the pay-per-views,
the
gates, everything off the charts. Conor McGregor, I'd say the best year anybody's ever had in MMA history.
Yeah, because let's not forget, well-deserved for Conor McGregor. Let's not forget, broke the record for FS1 in January, and then what he did at 189 as far as the gate was concerned, then he broke that record at 194. Obviously, my choice for male fighter of the year, no surprise, I have to agree with you on that one. It's Conor McGregor. This was a very easy decision. Won 3 fights, was active, beat a guy that everyone thought would be his kryptonite while injured, beat the greatest of all time in that division up until this point in 13 seconds. Quick. I mean, I can just repeat everything you just said. It's Conor McGregor. What a year, and I can't wait for the what's it called, the encore. I mean, what does he get? He can actually top it because he likes to be active. He wants to go up to a new weight class. If he does everything that he sets out to do this year, he could very well be the fighter of the year next year, and we'll get to that category a little later on. But it's just been such a joy to watch this guy call his shots. We put out that best of the MMA Hour with Conor McGregor. What did it get, like 150,000 views on YouTube?
Yep.
People just they eat up everything that he does and says, calls his shots. He's captivating in and out of the cage. I want to see more of him. I feel that's the beauty. Even with the Ultimate Fighter, you want more. I want to see what he does next. I want to see what he says next. I want to see more press conferences. It's just like you can't get enough of the guy. Wow. Honorable mentions. Rafael dos Anjos deserves an honorable mention. I don't think a lot of people were picking him against Anthony Pettis. He annihilated Pettis. Then he followed that up with a different kind of annihilation. This one, a very quick one of Donald Cerrone in a rematch just a couple of weeks ago in Orlando. Dos Anjos is a dominant champion, and he could be next for Conor McGregor. So I think he deserves an honorable mention. Demetrius Johnson deserves an honorable mention. He does it sort of under the radar with very little fanfare, but what he did to Horiguchi, getting the finish in the end with the second left in Montreal, what he did to John Dodson, who everyone thought would be the toughest opponent of his as champion. I mean, what more can you say about Demetrius? He is without any peers, at least right now, at 125 pounds. The Cejudo fight will be interesting, but DJ is the most active and most reliable champion in the UFC, and also the longest reigning one as well. And then another honorable mention for me, Luke Rockhold, finishing off the year very strong against Chris Weidman. A great performance, and he was battling some stuff as well. Tremendous win over Lyoto Machida in April. Luke Rockhold deserves a lot of credit and could be up for other awards as well. So that's Male Fighter of the Year 2015.
Before we move on from that one, did you mention Donald Cerrone in yours? Because I think if he had won, there's a very, very good case. He could have almost pushed McGregor, which is incredible considering the year McGregor had. If he had won the title against Rafael dos Anjos, that would have been one of the best years ever also. That would have been a really, really impressive year. And, even though he did lose, he had a great year as well.
Yeah, that is a good point. And I didn't mention my fighter of the year of 2014 was also Robbie Lawler. So we agreed on all of those, right?
We did.
Okay, now let's move along to female fighter of the year.
The suspense.
Yes. I gave mine away. Last year, by the way, I chose
Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
Oh, that's right. And we had a whole big argument about it.
Correct.
And you're still wrong about it. Now, what she did this year, by the way, has nothing to do with how ludicrous that pick was last year.
No, it was not ludicrous.
That, right?
It was not ludicrous. She had a very solid year. And remember, what I said was the wins on Tough did not count. I would have likely given it to like a Carla Esparza, but the wins on Tough did not count. The best year in the books last year was Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
She was coming off a super close decision win over Claudia Gadelha.
That she won.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, you picked Jędrzejczyk. I picked Ronda Rousey. That was the right choice. This year, who'd you pick?
This year, I picked Holly Holm.
Okay. There it is.
Well-deserved guest of the show just moments ago.
I mean, what a guest, right? Getting all emotional almost made me cry as well.
It's impossible not to like her. It's impossible.
Okay, so why is she? Is this an easy one? I already gave my choice.
It's not easy because Joanna had a great year again. Joanna Jędrzejczyk had a great year again. And I also think that Ronda Rousey, we can't. This is what I was talking about with Donald Cerrone. Even though she lost this fight, we can't downplay the year that Ronda Rousey had. She became a megastar, picked up 2 big wins. She submitted Kat Zingano in 14 seconds. She knocked out Bethe Correia in 34 seconds. So, typically in any other year, that'd be enough. But this year, it was Holly Holm's year. She picked up 3 wins. She beat what was considered the best female fighter on the planet. And she's undefeated still. And it was historic. It was unprecedented. Everything that you want to say. Huge upset. It was Holly Holm's year.
By the way, when you tweet these selections out, I'm not usually a huge fan of this, but throw in the person's Twitter handle so they can get some love here. You see how emotional she was getting our award? This means a lot to these fighters.
Yeah, but then we're running into characters and all this stuff.
No. You got to do it. We need to show the people. Take away some hashtags. You figure it out. I trust you. Okay? Now, my pick, Holly Holm, I just gave it to her. That was a lot of fun. Actually, Joanna this year has a very strong case. I mean, she had a fantastic year. She became champion. And then she successfully defended it against Jessica Penne and Valerie Letourneau. Her name will come up later. Have no fear. But Holly Holm, to do what she did to Ronda Rousey, to rise to the occasion the way she did in front of the biggest crowd in UFC history, one of the most watched shows as far as pay-per-views are concerned in UFC history, against the behemoth that is Ronda Rousey, against the media darling, the locomotive, everything you want to say. I mean, Ronda Rousey was that. She was a beast. And then to do what she did and to execute that game plan was just, it was a thing of beauty. It was one of the best performances in a title fight I've ever seen. And she deserves it. And to see what's happened to her, it's kind of funny, as I noted on Twitter, that fight was actually supposed to take place this past weekend before the Robbie Lawler injury. Just think about how different the last couple months would have been if we had not seen that fight yet. And who knows, different, more time to prepare, less time, who knows how it all plays out. I have a feeling, though, they fight 10 times. Holm wins the majority of those fights. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to her against Miesha Tate and how she responds to this fanfare and this whirlwind and all that. She deserves that new contract as well. Holly Holm, without a doubt, female fighter of the year. Honorable mention goes to Joanna Jędrzejczyk, as I mentioned. Miesha Tate had a solid year. She had a big win over Jessica Ai. She has done everything that the UFC has asked her to do. And she also had a big win over Sarah McMahon. Miesha Tate had a solid year as well. Amanda Nunes had a good year, and she's kind of been forgotten. I hope she gets back in there sooner rather than later. But like I said, without a doubt, Holly Holm, female fighter of the year. Congratulations to her on an unbelievable year, a historic year. What she's done is nothing short of amazing. Okay, let's move along now to fight of the year.
Fight of the year last year, I had a controversial one. Not a lot of people agreed with me. I had TJ Dillashaw versus Renan Barão.
Oh, yeah. That was another dumb one.
No.
You were really dumb last year.
It's not about being competitive. It's about the fight that was the best of that year. Everybody was captured by it, and that was that fight last year.
But why? I mean, when I think of a great fight, the first thing that comes to mind, the very first thing that comes to mind, honestly, is how competitive was it? Like, that's what makes it a great game, right? A great basketball game is not a blowout. It's a overtime thriller.
If it's special, a great game can't be a great basketball team blowing out the most. So if the New Jersey Nets beat the Golden State Warriors by 30 points this year, which game will be more talked about, that or a mid-season game between the Phoenix Suns and the San Antonio Spurs that's a shootout?
By the way, the New Jersey Nets don't even exist. What world are we living in?
Sorry, Brooklyn Nets. Come on. Shout out to Brooklyn. Which game will be more memorable? Which game, every moment, will you remember every second of that game?
Okay. If the Brooklyn Nets blow out the Golden State Warriors by 30 points, right? I can guarantee, and let's say this happens in February.
Yep.
Okay. I can guarantee you the double overtime thriller between the Boston Celtics and Golden State Warriors from December will be more remembered at the end of the year.
Completely disagree.
It's crazy.
Completely
disagree. Crazy. A blowout is not going to be a greater display
The worst team
of basketball
versus the best team.
Theater.
No, disagree.
Okay, hopefully you've righted this wrong this year. What's your okay? Let me tell you
what
my
was
pick.
your pick?
Well, my pick was the easy one. Hendricks Lawler, number 1, UFC 171. That was amazing. That fight, come on. That fight was decided in the final minute of the final round, the championship fight. The entire fight was played out in a phone booth. Back and forth they went. It was incredible. And you could have made a case that Lawler deserved to win that fight. He ended up winning in December against Hendricks. That fight's the best of MMA. This year's fight also, you could say the same. Not taking anything away from TJ. That was a great performance. That was a breakthrough performance. That was amazing. But Lawler Hendricks won was the unit. I think it won MMA. Not that that's more fans voting and things of that nature. But Lawler Hendricks won. Anyway, let's not argue about last year. What's your pick for this year?
My pick for this year is another Lawler fight. It's Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald from UFC 189.
Yes.
Competitive, but also delivered on every moment, and was the most memorable fight of the year. The stakes were at its highest. It was a championship fight. It was back and forth. They gave it to each other for nearly 5 rounds. And we had that moment in the 4th round where after the bell, Robbie Lawler spits out the blood, and then they're staring at each other in the middle of the ring with Big John between them. It was incredible. It delivered everything that we could have hoped for, and it's becoming a thing with Robbie Lawler. His was the fight of the year with Rory McDonald.
Amazing? Did he win the fight of the year before that too? Or am I crazy?
Before the one with Hendricks?
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Last year he won Fight of the Year for me and also Fight of the Year. Oh, okay, this is what I'm thinking. And this year he won Fight of the Year. I agree with you. It's Rory McDonald, Robbie Lawler, number 2, UFC 189. And then he may win Fight of the Year this year for 2016.
Correct.
After what just happened, and Round of the Year. That fight was great for a lot of reasons. The first that comes to mind is it was flying under the radar, and they were okay with that. It was the McGregor show, and then they end up stealing the show. It was amazing theater because Rory was so close to realizing his dream of becoming champion. And somehow Robbie digs deep as he continues to do in the 5th round. And, it's that punch was so painful to watch because you could tell Rory McDonald wanted to continue. It was like that R. Kelly song. My mind's telling me no, my body's telling me yes. Well, this was the opposite. His mind was saying keep going, but his body just, it just crumbled. And there's that gif of him sitting up and then falling back down. It was heartbreaking to watch, but it was also, how do you not commend and respect what Robbie Lawler did in that fight with that huge gash on his lip, and then what he said afterwards, the emotion, showed up the next day to the tough finale. His face was all messed up. That picture afterwards of both of them, even Rory saying that was the greatest moment of his life. It was just an amazing fight. It was so much fun to watch because there were highs and lows. One guy was winning. The other guy started to take a bigger lead. Then the other guy comes back and finishes him off. And there was no controversy, nothing. It was a clean victory. What a great fight on the biggest stage of them all. So, yeah, that's my pick. Lawler, McDonald 2, UFC 189. Honorable mention, Daniel Cormier versus Alexander Gustafsson at UFC 192. Justin Gaethje versus Luis Palomino, the first one. Benson Henderson versus Brandon Thatch, Jeremy Stevens versus Dennis Bermudez, Andrei Arlovsky versus Travis Brown, LC Davis versus Hideo Tokoro, Chad Mendez versus Conor McGregor also was a great fight. Those are some that come to mind. Any others for you?
Did you mention Gustafsson Cormier?
I did. Can you pay attention?
Ortega, Thiago Tavares.
I did not mention that one.
Another great comeback, and Ortega seems to be doing that
Yes.
again. Almeida Pickett. Grasso and Mizuki Inoue from Invicta.
Oh, yes.
Really fun fight.
That was a lot of fun, yes.
It was early in the year, so, a lot of people, it slipped off the radar, but that was really fun. Ferguson and Barboza. I think we hit a lot, but this was a great year. Fight of the year was difficult for me for the second place. The first place was Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald. You just knew from the moment that happened that was going to be it. But the second place, there were so many honorable mentions. It's really tough.
Okay.
It was such a good year.
Round of the year, last year you chose?
I chose Varner and Trujillo, round 2 at UFC 169. Incredible.
That was a great fight.
Incredible.
And I think that was, that was here in Newark. But wait, Who won that fight? Now I'm blanking.
Abel.
Abel won, yeah. I can't. That was a brain fart. My pick was Matt Brown versus Eric Silva in Cincinnati. That first round was bananas. So that was. I think you gave respect to that one as well. But
for sure,
it was debatable. This year, I'm curious to hear. And by the way, I just want to make mention of this. We haven't shared our picks. Last year we did, but this year I didn't want to tell you my picks because I was afraid you were going to steal them, and I want them some authenticity here. I want us to have natural reactions. And I know sometimes you like to go off the grid just to be a contrarian. So I really want to react to the craziness of some of your picks. So
I think you'll agree with this one.
Okay, go ahead.
2015 round of the year, John Lineker versus Francisco Rivera.
Wow.
The first round.
I disagree, but go ahead.
It was only 2 minutes and 8 seconds, so you can barely even call it a round. But the way they were just exchanging, throwing those shots that would topple over buildings, with the kind of power that you don't really see in that weight class, was incredible. They threw, according to Fight Metric, thanks to Michael Carroll on Twitter, I saw this, they threw 100 strikes in those 2 minutes between them.
Wow.
And not only that, the best part of this, my favorite part of this, is that it actually ended in a submission. Even though they were throwing all that leather, and they have so much power, it actually ended in a submission after all. Best 2 minutes. It was amazing. I was losing my mind. Lineker versus Rivera.
That's interesting. Great fight. But to me, this was maybe one of the easiest ones to pick. I'm not going to say it was easier than Holly and Connor, but how you do not pick Andrei Arlovsky versus Travis Brown that first round at UFC 187 is beyond me. This might be your biggest blunder yet. How do you top that?
It's an honorable mention.
What? That was crazy. Come on.
Yeah, it didn't quite have the horsepower.
What? It had all the horsepower in the world.
No, it was not as action packed for that amount of time.
Are you crazy?
I'm not arguing that there weren't. It had greater momentum swings, no doubt about it. That round was bonkers from the fact that it seemed like each guy was going up and down and up and down and up and down, whereas this one was them exchanging at the same time. Rivera and Lineker were exchanging at the same time, and it felt like either guy could drop at any moment. This was more each guy took his turn rocking each other. Great round. Honorable mention.
That was a video game.
Lineker versus Rivera.
Fair enough. That was a video game. That was the equivalent of like some Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat type of game. At one moment, you thought Arlovsky with the weak chin and all was gonna like an accordion. Didn't happen. Comes back and then the embrace afterward. I mean, it was just, and also it was a little longer. That was the round of the year. Round 1, UFC 187, Memorial Day weekend. Arlovsky Brown. You're crazy. Other rounds: Daniel Cormier against Alexander Gustafsson, round 3. Tony Ferguson, Edson Barbosa, round 1. Justin Gaethje, Luis Palomino, round 1. And how about that 5th round of Robbie Lawler, Rory McDonald? That was an amazing round when he finished him off. Any others that come to mind for you?
Let's see what else I had an honorable mention. No, those were the ones. I mean, clearly Lineker, Rivera, and Brown, Arlovsky for me were the ones that stood.
Is it weird that Lineker, Rivera didn't even make my honorable mentions?
I have nothing to say about that.
Yeah, that's weird.
I mean,
okay,
you know what you need to do there.
Okay, event. No. My bad. Because my things aren't in order. Knockout of the year. Last year, I went with Dong Young Kim versus John Hathaway in Macau. Remember that spinning back elbow? What'd you go with?
I went with Joe Schilling knocked out Melvin Manhoef.
Joe Schilling.
At Bellator
yes, that
131.
was tremendous. That was tremendous. Yes. Okay, so what's your pick?
My pick this year, I think many people are going to disagree with this, but it was my favorite. Frank Mir knocking out Todd Duffy at Ultimate Fight Night 71.
Oh. Yeah, what happened to the applause for the last one?
I mean, round of the year gets no love.
Who's sleeping behind the wheel there?
I loved this knockout. It wasn't the stakes weren't the highest. It wasn't the most meaningful fight in the world. But when Duffy face planted into the canvas,
that was crazy.
It was insane because typically you see guys bounce, you see them kind of wake up when they hit the mat. He went straight down, laid there flat, and Frank Mir went off and celebrated. It was bonkers. But like fight of the year, there's a lot of really, really good contenders here for knockout of the year. I imagine mine is not going to be one that many people have picked in the past, but this was my favorite.
Yeah, it's a good choice. Very good choice. Great win. And it was part of a great story for Frank Mir, the sort of comeback that he was on. But as you heard earlier, my knockout of the year was Holly Holm over Ronda Rousey. And not only because of the magnitude, not only because it was Holly Holm defeating Ronda Rousey, it was an amazing knockout. Like, I can watch that sequence over and over again, how she decides to go with the kick to finish her off. That was video game-esque. Like, that was her saying, okay, these are the weapons that I have in my back pocket. I'm just going to finish you off with the most spectacular kick anyone's ever seen to finish off a title fight. I mean, that was just amazing. It was flush. Our own Esther Lin got an amazing shot of it, an iconic photo. How is that? Explain to me, how is that not the knockout of the year? When you add, the stage, magnitude, the stakes, plus the actual execution, it all equals out to knockout of the year, and that's what Holly Holm did to Ronda Rousey in Melbourne. To me, another no-brainer. I didn't want to forget anyone in the honorable mentions, but the actual winner, boom, easy. Holly Holm, Ronda Rousey. Now, you can make a strong case for Conor McGregor over Jose Aldo because all those other things I just mentioned, stakes, magnitude, rivalry, all that, boom. History, 13 seconds, it all equals up to McGregor and Aldo as well. I can live with that one. And that was tough. It was kind of a 2-horse race for me, but nothing else. Nothing else. Why didn't you pick Holly? Why didn't you pick Conor?
The aesthetic was the big factor for me. This one, many of what people are calling the knockout of the year weren't one-hitter quitters. They were follow-ups, TKOs. This one was a one-hitter quitter, as was some of the other honorable mentions like Thomas Almeida's flying knee on Brad Pickett, one-hitter quitter. And that matters to me. Now, on the opposite end of that spectrum, the Tekken combo that Uriah Hall unleashed on Gegard Mousasi,
yes,
that could have been up there, even though it wasn't a one-hitter quitter. And then Joe Schilling on the other end of Hisaki Kato's Superman punch was another beautiful one.
Yes.
There were a ton this year. But for me, I don't know. There was something about this one, and I went back and forth. I had a million different thoughts, but this was the one I ultimately chose.
Okay, so like I said, it was tough to include all the great ones. You mentioned a couple. As far as honorable mention, Aldo Conor is almost like 1B here, but I got to pick one, so I'll pick Holm over Rousey. Aldo McGregor, because it was just a great knockout. It wasn't a fluke or anything like that, and it was clean. It was just amazing. Mousasi Hall, the David Loiseau, as I like to call it. You mentioned that one. You also mentioned Kato Schilling, a couple others. Santos Bosse. That was amazing. I mean, Bosse's body, I don't know if I'll ever see Steve Bosse again. After that head kick, he turned into a stiff board. Thomas Almeida, Brad Pickett, that was brutal. Paul Felder against Danny Castillo. Rumble Johnson against Alexander Gustafsson. That was in Sweden, no less, in the middle of the night, 4 a.m., almost early morning. That was a tough one to watch. Wonderboy Thompson against Jake Ellenberger, incredible. I mean, any other year, these are all winners.
It was nuts. Thiago Alves, liver kick to Jordan Meehan.
Oh, that's
really,
there.
really nice
that's
one.
There. A couple others. Frank Mir against Bigfoot Silva.
Frank Mir again.
Remember that?
Yep.
Andre Arlovsky against Travis Brown. That could certainly deserve it as well. How about this one? It will fly under the radar a little bit, but it was equally impressive. Joanna Jacek against Carlos Esparza. The standing TKO.
Very rare.
Is very, very impressive. That barrage, that beatdown was, I mean, again. And I feel like people have forgotten it now because she was on the receiving end of the knockout of the year. But Ronda Rousey's one-punch knockout of Bethe Correia would win in many other years as well. Don't cry. For fight of the year and knockout of the year, this was really stiff competition this year. Okay, let's move along.
Yes.
Great ones. What a year for knockouts. And I feel like I forgot a ton. Okay, let's move along. The next one is submission of the year. Last year, I had Ben Saunders, Chris Heatherly, Omoplata. A lot of fun. I think most people gave it to Ben Saunders. Did you as well?
I also gave it to Ben Saunders.
Yeah. Okay, this year.
History. It was historic.
Yes, it was historic. Sort of like Holly Holm beating Ronda Rousey or Conor McGregor. But
Sure.
Go ahead.
My pick this year is Now, you were talking about the context. Last time I disregarded it. This time I'm including
Oh,
it.
so you're picking and choosing. Okay, that's interesting.
Hey, this is my award.
Not very consistent.
This is my award.
Okay, go ahead.
Benson Henderson submitting Brandon Thatch via rear naked choke.
Okay.
Now, second place for me was Ronda Rousey in the 14-second armbar over Kat Zingano. Really, really impressive. But for me, the circumstance of Benson Henderson coming in, moving into the welterweight division, slaying a giant, and getting it done after absorbing a reasonable amount of punishment in the first couple of rounds, weathering the storm, getting it done, taking it to the mat, and choking Brandon Thatch out. Incredible, inspiring, shades of the great BJ Penn, and he was on a losing streak. He stepped up at welterweight, took it out. Took Thatch out, and now welterweight Benson Henderson, the money weight, was born. I thought it was an incredible moment. That's my submission of the year.
So the way you set that up makes me think that you think I'm going with Rousey Zingano, but I'm actually going to agree with you on this one. And I'm surprised, pleasantly surprised, that you picked Benson Henderson over Brandon Thatch, UFC Fight Night 60 in Broomfield, Colorado, because if you go back to that show, it was mid-February. I believe it was right after my son's birthday. I was incredibly emotional after that fight. Remember, I started the show. I tried so hard to get Benson Henderson on that Monday following that fight. That show could only start with one guy. And you remember I was showering with praise, and I was equating it to the old days of UFC when the smaller guy slayed the giant, and he was very reluctant. And if you recall, he was coming off a loss to Donald Cerrone, a controversial loss. He takes this fight on 2 weeks' notice, fights the bigger guy. And remember the weigh-in? And Brandon Thatch was towering over him, and people are like, what is Benson Henderson doing? This is a huge mistake. And remember, it started a little slow, and then it starts to pick up. And remember that takedown in the final round when he just changed levels and took the wind out of him, took him down, and eventually got the submission, the rear naked choke. That, to me, was what I remember sitting, and this happens a lot when I'm home, and I'm watching these fight night shows, which tend to drag, and it's 1 a.m., and I'm starting to fall asleep, and I perked up for that. And I was like, wow, I couldn't even, because I was starting to, I remember there was like a really bad co-main event that night. Remember in Colorado, I forget who it was with.
what it was.
I think of
let's look it up.
I think it was maybe there was an Australian fighter involved. Anyway, I don't want to pin it on someone who doesn't deserve it, but there was, it was like a bit of a lull. And I was like, man, I'm so tired. I just want to go to bed. This event is dragging way too long. And then they get to the main event, and everyone thinks it's going to be the destruction of the former champion. And he rises to the occasion. He does it in his reaction afterwards when he's like putting back his hair and looking through the crowd. It was just, I get emotional thinking about it because it showed the best of an athlete rising to the occasion, an athlete just kind of going above himself, and everyone's counting him out. He was the underdog, the betting underdog going into that fight. Benson Henderson's submission over Brandon Thatch was the thing of beauty. It was one of my favorite moments of 2015. One of my favorite moments in UFC history, honestly, and I'm not overplaying it. Months later now, I can truly say that. Honestly, sincerely, I loved it. And what a year it was for Benson. We'll get to comeback fighter of the year and all that, but he turned things around, and now he's a free agent, and he's about to, hopefully cash in, and he deserves it.
Did we just get a preview there?
Maybe, maybe not. But again, I can't say enough about that fight. I actually just rewatched it. I love that last round. That takedown, you know the one I'm talking about?
Sure.
You could feel it when you're watching it. Like you could feel the wind getting knocked out of you.
I had a very similar reaction to that fight that you did.
It wasn't just a submission. It was
special. It was a very special fight.
Yeah, it wasn't just a submission. It was a guy, everyone counting him out and the size difference and the state of his career. It was everything that I love about this sport. Just a thing of beauty. It was watching someone who will on a stage athletically do more than you can ever imagine. Like I can never pull off something like that. We're just regular Joes compared to someone like him. So I could talk about that fight all day. Loved it. Okay, so that was our pick for submission of the year. Honorable mentions, obviously, as a lot of people would pick, and it certainly is deserving. Ronda Rousey against Kat Zingano back in February. Up until the knockout by Conor McGregor over Jose Aldo, that was the quickest finish in UFC history, 14 seconds, and really ignited her into the superstar that she became. How about Fabricio Verdum with a huge win over Cain Velasquez. Who saw that coming in Mexico in that fashion? That was a lot of fun. Demetrius Johnson, the final second against Kyoji Horiguchi in Montreal, 4 minutes and 59 seconds of the 5th round. Talis Laitis, Tim Boach, Jake Ellenberger, Josh Koscheck, Pitbull Strauss, Aljamain Sterling against Takeya Mizugaki in Newark, and Luke Rockhold, Lyoto Machida, another great submission as well. A lot of great ones this year.
2 more for style points. Godofredo Pepe submitted Andre Fili via flying triangle at Ultimate Fight Night 62. That was fun. And Angela Lee submitted Natalie Hills via Twister in 1FC.
Yep.
We don't often see those. I think we saw 2 this year, but that was one of them, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, you nailed all the honorable mentions. A lot of important and really good submissions this year.
Okay, so last year we had Prospect of the Year, and we changed that. Last year, remember, I gave it to Will Brooks. Who'd you give it to?
I gave it to Will Brooks as well.
Yeah, and you remember it caused some controversy. Like, he was a little bit insulted by it, and it was just all weird, and maybe we didn't word it right. So I changed it to Breakthrough Fighter of the Year.
Yep.
This is kind of the evolution of Prospect. So it's important to know last year was Will Brooks, who had another good year. He's still the champion. Kudos to him. A very entertaining follow on Twitter as well. So this year it's Breakthrough Fighter of the Year. Who's your pick?
My pick is Max Holloway.
Interesting. That's a great pick.
Now, my pick was actually the same when we had Prospect of the Year. Because originally, as you said, we started with Prospect of the Year. I had Max Holloway. And then when I thought about it, he's also the Breakthrough Fighter of the Year for me. At the start of 2015, Max Holloway, he was riding a 3-fight win streak, but it wasn't, the most recent was a knockout of Akira Kurosani at the time. It wasn't like people were proclaiming that he's the next big thing. Fun fighter, always good to see scrap. But slowly but surely over the course of 2015, he proved that not only is he, a fun fighter who's really, technical on his feet, but he proved that he's worthy of being in the talks for title contention at 24 years old, which is, incredible and a huge jump to make in 2015. He outstruck Cole Miller, had a really good performance there. Best performance to date, in my opinion, against Cub Swanson. Quick work against Charles Oliveira. Another one over Jeremy Stevens. He was active. He was impressive. It was his year, 2015, Breakthrough Fighter of the Year, Max Holloway.
Yeah, that's a great choice. Also, to do what he did on Fox, too, that was a big opportunity for him. And against a veteran like Cub Swanson, great choice. My pick for a Breakthrough Fighter of the Year is Joanna Jędrzejczyk, because even when she won on the prelims of a Fox show in Phoenix, as I mentioned earlier, it was a close win against Claudia Gadelha. She was still this unknown fighter, and we couldn't even pronounce her name. But then she gets put in a title fight. And remember, it kind of came out of the blue. We didn't expect Carla Esparza to return that quickly. It was just sort of announced when they had to change that card around. We still didn't know a lot about her. And then she gets to fight week, and she starts to steal the show with her face-offs, with her trash talk, with her attire. Remember the overalls and all that? And then the cookie, and then the performance in the cage, the standing KO. I was blown away. And then she comes back, against Jessica Penne. She headlines the first title fight on Fight Pass, which is a sign of things to come, and gives her the necklace. And again, what she does, dismantles her face. Penne gets, nose surgery afterwards, and then plays second fiddle to a degree with Ronda Rousey on the biggest show ever. This time last year, we weren't talking about Joanna Jędrzejczyk like we do today. Oh, and by the way, on top of all that, she has legitimately turned into one of my favorite guests on this show. Name that poll in studio. She got the Reebok deal. She's been on a few times. Incredibly entertaining. A lot of fun to watch. A lot of fun to talk to outside of the fights and all that. Joanna Jędrzejczyk is someone who this time last year I wasn't thinking about on these terms and has become champion. So to me, that defines Breakthrough Fighter of the Year. What a year for her, and has really carried that division on her back in the sense that she wasn't a part of the Ultimate Fighter, and we were kind of wondering, will that division have a face? Will it have its own dominant, leader to give it some credibility? And there are some candidates, but she has really, in my opinion, taken that division and given it credibility and told the world that, more so in many respects than the flyweights for some weird reason. I think that she has really stamped it, and people get excited for strawweight fights because she's a part of it, and she's the face of the strawweight division. Congratulations to her on a fantastic year. Other Breakthrough Fighter of the Years, Breakthrough Fighters of the Year, Holly Holm, You know, like this time last year, she had not fought in the UFC yet. She's a UFC rookie.
Yep.
We don't have Rookie of the Year, but she would certainly be in contention for that. Liam McGeary, what a year for him. The Bellator light heavyweight champion. Sage Northcutt. Now, I know it's just 2 wins, but we were not talking about Sage Northcutt. Makwan Amirkhani, great year for him. Burst onto the scene around a year ago in Sweden. Joseph Duffy. Now, I know he came off a loss, but we're talking about 2015. He had a great year as well. Tumanov, who just won this past weekend. Sterling, Aljamain Sterling, and Thomas Almeida are others that come to mind.
I had all those as well. Yair Rodriguez.
Great
somebody
one.
we weren't really talking about at all, and all of a sudden he's everybody's favorite fighter.
That's a good one.
But I think, did you mention Henry Cejudo?
I did not.
Even though he debuted, I believe, in 2014, he had 3 wins in 2015, looked good, on his way to a title shot pretty soon. And Tom Breese from TriStar.
Yep.
But I think, we hit a pretty comprehensive list there. A
Okay.
lot of good young talent coming up.
Now, the next award is Most Improved Fighter of the Year. Last year, I chose
TJ Dillashaw.
Interesting. And that's a great choice. I chose Donald Cerrone. This year, you chose?
This year, I chose Ryan Bader.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that one.
This was one of the tougher categories for me, but when I really sat down and thought about it, I didn't think anybody made the leaps and bounds this year, not in the end of 2014 or any year prior, but this year specifically that we saw from Ryan Bader. Really, really tightened up his boxing, toned down his aggressive style, made a workable style that I think is going to keep him in title contention for a while. Looked really good, picked up some big wins, and I like the way he looked in 2015 heading into 2016, possible title contender. I liked Ryan Bader's improvements this year. He was my pick.
Yeah, and he has a big fight January 30th in Newark. It's going to be interesting to see if he wins that fight. I mean, where else does he go? If he beats Rumble Johnson, where else does he go? The timing of Jones leaving and then coming back, screwed with him. But if he beats Rumble Johnson, hard to deny him. That's a great pick. I went with Rafael dos Anjos because, again, this time last year, I did not think that Rafael dos Anjos would be the UFC champion and turn in the kind of performances that he has turned in. This is a guy who started his UFC career 0-2. He was a 500 fighter. He was just kind of there. He was like not to disrespect these guys, but he was like a Gleison Tebow, Thiago Tavares, like one of these lightweights that would just kind of be there and be around for a long time and have a solid career, but just never kind of break through. And he has turned into this. He has turned into one of the best fighters in the UFC, but not only that, like he is a killer. I mean, what he did to Donald Cerrone just doesn't happen.
Now, I agree with you on everything you just said.
Yeah.
But I feel like we saw this already at the end of 2014.
Man, to do what he did to Anthony Pettis in a title fight, and then to do what he did on Fox to Donald Cerrone is a different level than what he was doing in 2014.
Possibly at a higher level, but the style, the hard work that was put in was already there. Cordero got him set for that at the end of 2014. I can't disagree with you because that was one of the selections I considered, but I just thought if we're encapsulating 2015, I feel like the jump in that year was bigger for Ryan Bader, whereas Dos Anjos, absolutely incredible. All the credit in the world is deserved. But I feel like he laid this down at the end of 2014. It was pretty clear that we were looking at something completely different.
Fair, although in 2014 he lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now he rebounded with wins over Jason High, the Benson Henderson win.
Yep.
Was a little controversial, but still, I think in hindsight, everyone gives him a lot of credit for that. And then the Nate Diaz win. But then to go from those guys to a title fight and to do what he did to Anthony Pettis, I mean, that was like the TJ Dillashaw win over Brow. That was just a 5-round beatdown. And then to come on Fox in a rematch against a blazing hot fighter and to beat him in 66 seconds, to me, he took a step. And even after the Diaz fight, I think a lot of people thought, like, okay, he's not going to beat Pettis. He's still going to be, in the top 5. Now he's number 1. And he's number 1 by far right now until Nurmagomedov comes back. I mean, wow. So to me, he's the most improved fighter of the year, and he continues to improve, and that's kind of the scary part. Other honorable mentions, Bader is there, 100%. I agree with that. Dave Branch. How about Dave Branch? What he's done?
I think he was one of my honorable mentions for last year. I mean, the guy just continues to get it done.
Yeah, Dave Branch deserves a lot of credit. Max Holloway,
for sure,
to a degree, the breakthrough and like some of these, you can make a case for a guy in multiple categories. Max Holloway, Tony Ferguson has had a great year, and I'm curious to see what happens to him. He could get a title shot very soon as well. Robert Whitaker and Amanda Nunes. I think Amanda Nunes has really turned the corner. Remember when Amanda Nunes came on the scene in Strikeforce? She was fighting in the wrong weight class, and she wasn't as in shape. And we thought that she might be the one to challenge Cyborg, and she stumbled a little bit, but I think she has really put it all together. And credit to her team at ATT for that. I also put Verdum on this list at the very end because another guy like RDA from the same gym, coached by the same guy, who continues to put it all together. What's that music? Is that a phone?
Yeah.
He just, every time I feel like I'm sort of doubting him, and he continues to get better. And what he did against Kane, altitude or not, was outstanding. So I think when you talk about a guy who has improved, and maybe this is a lifetime achievement award for him, Verdum, in my opinion, needs to be mentioned. All right. Any others you want to mention there, by the way?
No, that was it. I mean, for me, it was kind of tough because of the reasons mentioned. I feel like Verdum and Dos Anjos were kind of looking in that direction already, but certainly this was their big year. Holloway you mentioned, but Bader was my pick. That was it.
Okay. Let's move along. Comeback Fighter of the Year. By the way, what happened to the applause?
Yeah, I know, right?
Jeez. Oh, well, we didn't give out the award yet.
We're getting applause for remembering to applaud.
Yes. Comeback Fighter of the Year. Last year, I had Dominic Cruz. Who'd you have?
I had Dominic Cruz returning to action.
Yeah, that was great. Great win. And now comeback, I mean, I have not put any limitations here. You could say, okay, comeback is a great comeback in a fight or a career comeback, whatever you want. So last year we were on the same page, Dominic Cruz. This year you chose.
This year I chose Patricio Pitbull knocking out Daniel Weichel at Bellator 138.
Okay, explain.
I mean, there's almost no explanation necessary. Pitbull was saved by the bell at the end of round one. Looked like he couldn't even stand. Looked like he couldn't get to his stool. Completely, he was shot. It looked like it was over. They went to the commercial, I believe, and everybody was wondering what the hell is about to happen. Round two starts. He's still on shaky legs. Daniel Weichel's pouring it on. Gets a little too aggressive. Gets clipped and goes down. One hitter quitter. Patricio Pitbull. Craziest turn of momentum I've ever seen. In terms of one guy looked like he was on his way to a win, and it didn't even look close. And then backing up against the cage, he hit that left hook and completely dropped him. Crazy comeback, especially with the way the idea of the way round one ended and us going into the break completely contributed to the story here. And when it looked like he still wasn't even recovered in round two and still pulled off that win, nuts, just bananas, bonkers.
So it's interesting that last year you gave the award to Cruz for a career comeback, but this year you went with an actual fight.
It was too overwhelming of a comeback fight.
Interesting. I went with Juliana Pena, who not that long ago suffered. Well, thank you very much. There you go, Juliana. Not that long ago suffered a devastating knee injury, multiple places. There was a lot of controversy surrounding it, and we thought she would be gone for around 2 years. She came back a little over a year later, and apparently, according to her coach, Rick Little, wanted to come back sooner. And she won, and then she won again in Houston. To me, this was a fairly simple one. I mean, this was a pretty clear-cut winner. Did Juliana Pena come to mind at all, or were you thinking fight the whole time?
Because of the way this fight played out, I was thinking fight the whole time.
Because this is kind of Cruz-esque in the sense...
Disagree.
Cruz was 3 years, yes. But the injury was incredibly devastating, and then she wins twice.
There was not the same level of attention and doubt placed on Juliana Pena that Dominic Cruz.
Do you remember that? She was mauled. She was attacked. Dana White started campaigning for her to leave the gym.
Yes, but
And that was a year. For ACL,
Juliana Pena
MCL?
hadn't established herself in the way that Dominic Cruz had. I think Juliana Pena coming back is an incredible story, a great comeback, and I'm happy to see her back. But this fight was just insane. It's indescribable. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor. Bellator 138.
It's a great fight, but Juliana Pena, in my opinion, deserves it. And she's arguably one fight away at this point, and that's maybe more of a indictment on the state of that division and perhaps how shallow it is, but to come back from that in its own right is tremendous. And I know she's She was involved with some little controversy recently and had some run-ins with the law. I had some time to spend with her. Remember that my interview with her in Houston before her fight? She was wearing the sunglasses. She's a very interesting character, but she's a complex character, I should say. But I'm very curious to see how she puts it all together. And she's not even 100%. Her coach told me she's like at 70, 80% at this point. And that's again, commendable that she came back and won twice in 2015. So honorable mention, a couple other ones. I know he lost. I thought he won the fight, Frank Mir. That would have put him at 3-0 in 2015.
Now, did you have any fights, or did you only have?
I thought this. I'd even think it. I thought career, and you could go either way.
I was the opposite. I only had.
That's funny.
Let me
tell you my fighters: Frank Mir, Damian Maia, Evan Dunham, Benson Henderson, Rose Namajunas, Tamdan McCrory, Nate Diaz, Alistair Overeem.
I forgot that I did think of Evan Dunham. I didn't mention him, but I did think of Evan Dunham. He was on a losing streak, and 2015 was a winning streak over some really tough guys. So I did think of Evan Dunham, actually. But other comeback fights. Brian Foster coming back into the WSOF tournament after losing and then winning twice to win the whole thing.
Great call.
And Gilbert Burns dropping 2 rounds to Alex Oliveira before he pulled off the submission in that one was a great comeback. Akin to what we just saw from T-City over the weekend. Very similar. He was dropping 2 rounds, looked like it was over, and he came back and stayed undefeated. It was really impressive. But man, for me, Pitbull knocking out Weichel was bonkers.
So I like the fact that you thought of it from the fight perspective, and
that's what we do here. We've got the mix-up.
That's what we do. Okay, let's move along. Let's go to upset of the year. Last year it was T.J. Dillashaw for me over Renan Barão, UFC 173. Who was your pick?
My pick was T.J. Dillashaw over Renan Barão.
Okay, which is also a little bit. Oh, no. We don't get applause for last year's pick. Jesus.
Although you know what? I'll take it. I'll take applause for last year's pick.
Again, it feels contradictory to your whole fight of the year thing. But anyway, let's.
How does it feel contradictory?
Who's your pick this year?
The fight of the year can't be an upset.
Fine. Who's your pick this year?
Sir? My pick this year, I forgot to mention, was Holly Holm.
Oh.
When we were talking about it, I skipped over that. But Holly Holm.
So she could have won 6 awards.
She could have won 6.
Jesus, we robbed her of one.
Yeah, we did.
We're gonna have to get her back on.
There's no other one. Now, there actually were, this will be an interesting tidbit, there actually were bigger underdogs betting-wise, statistically.
Tell us.
Frankie Saenz was a bigger underdog to Yuri Alcantara at Ultimate Fight Night 61. He walked away with a unanimous decision, Frankie Saenz, that is. Rafael Carvalho was plus 900 dog before closing at around plus 700 when he defeated Brandon Halsey at Bellator 144. So actually, Holm defeating Rousey was not even the biggest upset betting-wise of the year, not even the second biggest.
Wow.
Which is very interesting. But in terms of the circumstance, it was clear that this was the biggest upset of the year because the people that were tuning in, the millions, were not ready for what was about to happen, and Holly Holm shook up the world.
By the way, how do you find that? Like, how do you find...
Well, the betting site Best Fight Odds has a tracker that keeps track of all the odds as they've come out and how the lines move. So I think that was as of the lines at 5 dimes. But again, this is not like an exact science because different books have different lines or anything like that. But you can roughly keep track of how much that was. And but by no book was she the biggest underdog of this year, though.
Still, my pick is Holly Holm over Ronda Rousey. I told that to her earlier in the show. I don't care about a little. There we go. Very nice. I don't care about a little, couple odds here, there, whatever, points, whatever you want to call it. The magnitude of the moment, no one was giving her a chance. And I can't even put Holly Holm over Ronda Rousey in the same discussion as some of those other fights because, those were just fights.
Well,
at the end of the day, they were just fights.
That's fair, but the Bellator one was a title fight. Let's not diminish that, but yeah, I completely agree with you. Hey, I'm just trying to give credit where credit's due. It was a title fight.
Yeah. By the way, Tyron Woodley needs to stop responding to everyone on Twitter because he's just making it worse for himself. Like he's responding to Damian Maia. Like, you can't do that, man. You're gonna fall into a fight. I'm sorry. I just noticed that right now. That was just such a big deal. Again, big stage. I've said it all about the fight. That's the pick, without a doubt, in my opinion. Holly Holm, Ronda Rousey, another pretty easy one as well. Now, as far as honorable mentions are concerned, I don't recall if you said these, but RDA over Pettis, to me, was an upset because I felt like everyone was picking Pettis, like everyone was picking Ronda. No one was picking Holly over Ronda. Uriah Hall over Mousasi. Rumble against Gustafsson to go into Sweden. It kind of felt like this was fait accompli. It was the Gustafsson show. He was going to get a title shot afterwards. Goes in there, does his thing. It's just so much fun to see someone rise to the occasion and defy the odds. And Teddy Holder over Thiago Silva, much lesser scale, but another one where everyone was like, this is an easy cakewalk, and the guy flips the script. So those are honorable mentions for me, but upset of the year, there's only one. Holly Holm, Ronda Rousey. We'll be talking about that one forever.
One honorable mention for me, Uriah Hall knocking out Gegard Mousasi. Also an honorable mention in knockout of the year. Just out of nowhere, a lot of people, get up and down on Uriah Hall. Really pulled off a nice upset there.
Yeah, he lost, shortly thereafter, but that doesn't take anything away from the Loiseau finish, as I like to call it. Okay, so that's upset of the year. Congratulations to Holly Holm. Who'd you pick again? I forget now.
I picked Holly Holm.
Oh, you did? Oh, that's right. Okay, let's go to coach of the year. Last year, I picked Rafael Cordero. Who did you pick?
Last year, I picked Rafael Cordero.
This year, who did you pick?
This year, I picked Rafael Cordero.
So did I. Now, so last year, we obviously picked him because Verdum won the interim title, and Dos Anjos was doing his thing, and King's MMA was rolling. Why'd you pick him this year?
For the same reason. He picked up 2 champions this year. And I felt that there were other contenders. Obviously, American Kickboxing Academy had a good year, but if you look at head-to-head right there, you had Fabricio Verdum beating Cain Velasquez, so that was one in his favor. I just think that he's one of those guys that gets very closely associated with his 2 champions in terms of being directly hands-on and being their coach. And I think that was the difference. But for me, and I said this last year, the gym of the year and the coach of the year are very similar. It's kind of like a flowing thing.
Fair.
But for me, coach of the year this year was Rafael Cordero again.
So I agree. Obviously, Dos Anjos, Verdum, we've talked about them. As someone was telling me this, I won't say who, but they were talking to me about just how good of a coach Cordero is. And of course, he's a legendary coach, been doing this for a long time, Shoot-a-Bucks. People are starting to flock to him, and he's really flocked him again, I should say, and really established that gym as one of the best in the world. And it's a smaller gym with a smaller team. But they were talking about what he was saying going into the Cerrone fight. And they were saying that his line of thinking was, okay, what does Donald Cerrone do a lot? He drinks. Let's attack his liver. What did Dos Anjos do in that fight? I mean, that's just brilliance, right? No one really talked about that. That's pretty amazing. So just a little snapshot of who Rafael Cordero is and how smart he is. I agree. He was my pick last year. He's my pick again. He deserves it. And I think there were this was a tougher one for me than it was last year. Others that definitely deserve a mention. Javier Mendez, AK, had a great year. Somewhat marred by the fact that he lost to, Cain lost to Verdum, so that was kind of AK versus Kings. Mike Winklejohn deserves a lot of credit, in particular because of what he did with Holly Holm, and I just love watching him in the corner. He whispers, he shouts out Travis Brown. I mean, that's a brilliant mind as well. And Greg Jackson, obviously his partner in crime. Dean Thomas deserves a lot of credit. He's become one of those great minds in MMA, and he's doing that MMA analyst thing, or I think it's called a scouting report, whatever it's called. We had him on the show, I think it was last year at this point, but he's become a great mind, and the guys at ATT think very highly of him. Speaking of which, Mike Brown has become a great coach as well. I'd love to see Mike Brown's record when he's cornering someone, because I feel like he's always in the winner's circle. Again, this weekend with Dustin Poirier, a couple others. John Kavanagh, I think, deserves credit. Now, Conor is Conor. He's the fighter of the year, so you can get credit just for that. But even, and I know that they stumbled a little bit, Paddy Houlihan and Gunnar Nelson. Gunnar had a big win earlier in the year, but what he's done with Ashling Daly and really just taken that gym that's just sort of this Irish gym and become worldwide. And now you got guys like Makwan Amirkhani and others that want to train there. Kavanagh is a brilliant mind. One of my favorite guests on the show, one of my favorite people in MMA. He's very smart. And I also, this has nothing to do with Coach of the Year, but I love the fact that never goes to the press conference or anything. Like, just is off doing his own thing, doesn't want limelight, doesn't want the spotlight, doesn't want acceptance, is just happy doing his own thing. A very, very unique guy. And I know Weidman faltered, but Longo, I think, deserves credit for what he did up until that point with Weidman. Sterling's year, Ally Quinta's year, Longo, one of the best in the business as well. So those are some that come to mind.
Just wanted to mention, it goes beyond Dos Anjos and Verdum. Beneil Dariush had a good year. Shogun was 1-for-1 for the year. We forget about that, but he's a Kings MMA guy. Gabby Garcia, won her MMA debut. You have to give some credit there. And there were a lot of guys out of that gym. So I think, as I said, it's tough to separate Coach of the Year and Gym of the Year, but Rafael Cordeiro was clearly, if not Coach of the Year, one of in the conversation.
Okay, so this is tied, as you mentioned, Gym of the Year. Last year I chose ATT, American Top Team, Coconut Creek.
As did I.
You did, okay. This year you chose?
Jackson Wink MMA.
Oh, interesting. So you just said moments ago that Coach...
This is why I'll give my reasoning.
Okay.
In addition to the idea that I wanted to split them up, and I did that last year, as did you. You picked Cordero and American Top Team, but I split them up to give awards to two different gyms and coaches and things like that. But I think that Jackson Wink MMA is a lot of it is when we think of that gym, we think of a lot of coaches. It's not just one coach. Whereas for Kings MMA, everybody instantly thinks of Rafael Cordero. He seems like the easier fit for Coach of the Year. When you think of the gym, you think of Jackson, you think of Winklejohn, you think of Brandon Gibson, you think of Izzy Martinez, all those guys that are in there as a unit. So I think that's why their success as a gym is easier to outline, and that's why I split it up the way I did. This year, they had John Jones. We forget John Jones at the beginning of the year beat Daniel Cormier. Holly Holm, nothing left to be said. We've showered her with accolades this year. Alistair Overeem, Andrei Arlovsky, they turned back the clock this year, or rather last year in 2015. Carlos Condit was getting himself ready for a title fight, which many people thought he won in 2016. John Dotson beat Zach Makowski and fought Mighty Mouse for the title. He didn't win that one, but he was in the title picture. Michelle Watterson made a successful UFC debut. They had, highs and lows. John Jones's personal issues were some of the lows. Holly Holm's, triumph and victory were some of the highs. But I thought overall it was an incredible year for them as a gym. So Jackson Wink MMA is my Gym of the Year.
Very strong candidate. Certainly deserving of your award, but I got to go back to Kings just for Dos Anjos and Verdum doing what they did. Well, thank you very much. And, as you mentioned, some other fighters coming and going there. To have two champions is very hard coming out of the same gym. We got that now with AKA, who's certainly deserving as well. Jackson Wink could have had 3 at this point in the span of a month. But unfortunately, Carlos Condit and Donald Cerrone stumbled as of late. But Kings, to get 2 undisputed champions in 1 year, that's got to be the Gym of the Year, in my opinion. It's the usual suspects. American Top Team, American Kickboxing Academy had another great year, and they can have an even bigger 2016. Jackson Wink always has a big year, it seems. TriStar had a very good year, and I feel like TriStar is starting to get back on track to a degree, even though, Duffy lost recently, and Rory, maybe George potentially coming back could lift everything. And SBG, I think, deserves mention, because when the best fighter in the world, as far as 2015 is concerned, comes out of there, you deserve to be mentioned as well. Okay, several more awards to go, but let's take a quick break for Inside the Vault. How about that? Let's go to UFC 143. Let's go to Carlos Condit in a role reversal from this past weekend. He beat Nick Diaz in a controversial one, and he became public enemy number 1. And I had a lot of people say to me, you're forgetting it wasn't that bad. Yes, it was bad. People hated Carlos Condit after that fight. He was vilified, unfairly so. People had high expectations. They said he was running and all this stuff. The Diaz fans came out of the woodwork. Carlos Condit walked away as interim champion. It was close, just like it was this past weekend. He was on the receiving end of the judges' scorecards and walked away with the belt and ended up staying interim champion until he fought GSP at UFC 154. But it's kind of funny to look back now because this past weekend he was everyone's darling, came up short, but still kind of considered the king without a crown, the uncrowned champion. Everyone's showering him with praise and love. And then back in February of 2012, everyone hated him because they thought he was walking away with the belt when he shouldn't have walked away with the belt. So here it is, inside the vault, my post-fight interview with Carlos Condit at UFC 143. Post-fight at UFC 143 alongside Carlos Condit. And Carlos, congratulations on winning the big fight. How does it feel to be holding that belt?
It's pretty crazy, man. Honestly, I need a little bit of time to process it and let it sink in. But I'm a happy man tonight.
Why do you think you deserve to win this fight? It's a little controversial, of course.
I punched Nick Diaz in the face and hit him with harder shots, and was able to take him out of his game. I won the fight.
Were you 100% confident that they would score it for you when the fight was completed?
Yes.
Yeah. No doubts.
Nope.
Which rounds do you think you won decisively?
I felt I won the first 4 decisively. If I lost that last one, it was because it took me down and had my back for a little while towards the end.
It seemed like your confidence grew as the fight went on. Was that the case?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of laid the groundwork in those first rounds, hitting him with leg kicks, slowing him down, taking his mobility away from him, which is a huge part of Diaz's game, walking guys down and trapping him up against the cage. So basically, by taking that aspect of his game away, I was able to open up a lot more.
What was he saying to you during the fight?
He was telling me to fight a couple times. He told me my nose was bleeding, asked me why my nose was bleeding, and I don't know. My nose was bleeding before I even went out there. I had I don't know.
Picking it too much, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I actually had a cold.
There was some talk that you were actually sick this week. Is that true?
Yeah, I've been under the weather for the last 2 weeks. The week before I came out to Vegas, I was pretty sick. I've had a chest cold, and all this week I've been hacking stuff up, and but I've been sick. I had a cold. I'm not going to let that deter me from doing what I came out here to do.
Okay, 2 last quick questions. 1, did he hurt you seriously at any point in the fight?
No.
And number 2, if George does come back in November or maybe even later, would you like to fight between now and then, get another fight in?
Probably not. That's something I would have to discuss with my coaches and my management team, but most likely we would wait for George.
All right, thank you very much, Carlos. I'm sure you're going to hide from the cameras now, right? Enough of these cameras.
All right, Ariel, take it easy, man.
All right, congrats. The parallels there to Saturday night, interesting. Obviously one time he's wearing the belt, the other time he doesn't have the belt, but even the George question is kind of interesting as well. Back then, coming back from injury, now feels like he's looming in the wings. So that's Carlos Condit, February 4th, 2012, interim champion. Will that be the only time he wears UFC gold? It remains to be seen. Could be on Saturday night. Could have been his last fight ever. It's going to be interesting. Okay, let's continue with the awards. Now it's time for Event of the Year. Last year, I chose UFC Dublin. Magical event in July. It was Conor McGregor versus Diego Brandao. The passion, the emotion, it all came together. I mean, one of the best events.
Biased.
No, biased to what? I'm not Irish. What am I biased?
You were there.
So what? Of course. That's part of the game. I have the privilege of attending many events. That biased remark may be your dumbest remark. What do you mean they sauced me up?
The Irish crowd sauced you up.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
Got you all liquored up before you got
Anyway,
out there.
what was your pick?
Last year, it was the Australian event, the Rockhold versus Bisping one, where it was all finishes. Every single fight was a finish.
Solid, but didn't have the same emotion. Anyway, let's go to this year. Your pick?
UFC 189.
Oh. There it is. Okay, why?
I mean, the entire main card was just incredible. Thomas Almeida and Brad Pickett went to battle for 3 rounds, ended with a flying knee. Gunnar Nelson knocking out Brandon Thatch. Or maybe he might have ended in a submission, but I know he knocked him down, showed off his hands a little bit. Jeremy Stevens and Dennis Bermudez also ended with a flying knee. And then Fight of the Year came from this card, Robbie Lawler and Rory McDonald. And, some guy named Colin McGruber won a belt.
Colin McGillicuddy.
189, the main card of 189 should just be put in a time capsule and shown to future humans because it was amazing. I think it'll be very hard to ever top that main card.
And also, what made it special was they introduced the new graphics. They had those intros on the cage, the walkouts. Like it made it feel as great as 194 was, and that was a little different. And even 193, they were kind of the same. This one felt fresh. It felt new. It felt different. It felt unique. So I agree. UFC 189. It didn't end up being the main event that we were hoping for. It all ended up, working out in the end. But it was an amazing main. It was a great fight. The McGregor show was a lot of fun to be a part of and follow. The co-main event ended up being the fight of the year. The other fights, as you mentioned, the undercard was great. It was middle of July. It was International Fight Week. The weigh-ins were the best, better than 194. More people were there. It just had it all. It had everything that you want out of an MMA event and more. It was magical. It was. You remember afterwards how we felt? Like I felt exhausted emotionally. It was a roller coaster. And we'll get to this a little later, but to cap it off, this guy who had been so brash and cocky and everything you want to say about him, but to see that side of Conor where he got super emotional with his family and almost was at a loss for words. He was bloodied. Amazing event. And credit to the UFC for pulling it off. The main event we all wanted fell through, and major credit to Chad Mendes for taking that baton and not missing a beat. And it was the right call then, and he was the right guy for that situation. Unfortunately for him, he came up short. But that was, I think that's another one that was pretty easy. Others that come to mind, UFC on Fox in Sweden. Fun event, obviously very unique in the big stadium and all. The main event was very memorable. Some great finishes. Remember Makwan's finish. Remember the Cecilia Akira Corsani fight. Hendo Musasi was a little disappointing. The main event finish. That was just a cool, unique scene to be a part of, and it was in the middle of the night. It was so strange being there in Sweden, by the way, because I never got used to Swedish time because the event was on American time, so it was on at I think 4 a.m. The main event happened at like 4 a.m. So what I did was I just stayed on New York time. So I would wake up, I would go to bed at like 6-7 a.m. Swedish time, which was like 12 or something back here. And then by the time I woke up at like 2 or 3, it was dark already. The days are so short there in Stockholm in the wintertime that it was dark, but it was very cool to walk around. It was an amazing city. So that was a great event. UFC 183 happened a long time ago, but that was Anderson Silva and Nick Diaz. Run through the rest of the card. That was a great one as well. UFC on Fox in Newark, Machida Rockhold. Some amazing performances that night. And that kind of felt like a changing of the guard where a lot of the younger fighters stepped up. Remember Max Holloway, Paige Van Zandt, Luke Rockhold. That was a great card as well. And 2 others, UFC New Orleans. I think that had like 8 or so finishes on it. Something like that. I remember that one headline. That was supposed to be DC and Bader. Ended up being Hendo and Tim Boetsch and his great finish. And then the Scotland debut event was very memorable as well. Kind of like Dublin, lesser degree, but a lot of emotion. Local fighters doing well. The main event was a lot of fun. Bisping, Ladies. So Scotland deserves a mention as well. Any others?
You said it all.
Okay. Let's go now to walkout of the year. Last year I had Noad Lahat in San Jose. This is more of a biased pick. I'll give you that. That was, a Facebook Fight Pass. I don't even know if Fight Pass was around. Maybe it was. That was the curtain jerker, but he came out to Matisyahu in the midst of the conflict between Palestine and Israel, and he was about to go to war. He was about to go back to Israel. It was a very emotional one for me. I made a point to be in the arena. I got emotional. It was something, it was very memorable, and it was touching and personal. So that was my pick. I know everyone disagreed with me, but whatever. What was your pick again?
That's fair enough because I was also biased. My pick was BJ Penn's last walk to the octagon at the Tough 19 finale.
Which was a horrible pick.
Oh, my God.
Because it was a
Continue.
remix. It was a remix. Like, that was a sign of what was to come.
How dare you?
But do you not agree? It was a bad choice.
Do not
it
question.
was a remix.
Do not question the greatest of all time. and his choice of walkouts.
I have erased that entire fight from my memory.
Perfect.
That was just
I
so
love
bizarre.
that.
Okay, so
I've
that was your
erased
pick.
like the second half of his career from mine.
What do you got for this year?
Walkout of the year was Aisling Daly walking out to Zombie by the Cranberries at Ultimate Fight Night 76 in Dublin.
Yes.
It wasn't, the biggest stage. It wasn't the debut in Dublin. They had already done that. But the entire crowd singing along with her just made it feel special. And now, it's hard to stand out in terms of walkouts. We see so many, and there's a lot, and you tend to forget them. Obviously, the Sinead O'Connor at UFC 189 and Chad Mendes also having, live music was something new and fresh. But even with that, I still think Aisling Daly's walkout was more genuine, and it felt very sentimental, and it was a really touching moment.
Yeah, actually, I didn't really know about the connection between that song, the Cranberries, and I didn't even know that they were from there. So that's a great choice. It didn't come across as well over Fight Pass. I don't know why. Like I've seen some videos afterwards from some, in the crowd videos, YouTube and all that, and I got a better sense for how special it was. I wasn't there, so maybe if I was there, it would have meant more. To me, my pick is UFC 189. Again, Conor McGregor, Sinead O'Connor. I have a unique perspective on this one because we were doing, thank you. We were doing the weigh-in show. Remember, back in July, the Tough finale was on Sunday, so it was the day after, and we were doing the weigh-in show in an empty arena. The weigh-ins were taking place at the Sands at the convention center there at International Fight Week. So it was DC, I believe Brian Stan and I doing the weigh-in show for FS1. I think that was FS2, whatever. And she was rehearsing. And it was, there were rumors of her being there, that she was going to perform. And then there she was rehearsing, and I got to hear it over and over again. And I actually think she did better in the rehearsal than she did live. It seemed like something was wrong, bothering her with the reverb. I don't know, but it seemed like she was a little off. Nevertheless, the moment when he walked out and he turned around to her, and just seeing her come up like that, and what made it special was the UFC has never done anything like that before, so it felt different. It felt bigger. It felt unique. And the connection there, singing that song, Foggy Dew. It's unfortunate that they couldn't get Rihanna for Jose Aldo. That would have been that might have topped that one. But the connection to Ireland and who she is, she's a megastar from way back in the day, and the way he embraced her was just a super cool moment. So that's my pick. Do I have any honorable mentions? No, I only had one.
Mine was yours.
Okay. There's others as well. I mean, every time Ronda comes out, every time Chris Weidman comes out, a lot of great ones. Robbie, by the way, has vaulted up my rankings for walkout of the year. And even the ones at Ryzen were great as well. But this was the culmination of it all. And I hope that they don't do it too often. I mean, it's cool the way they did it. I don't mind doing it sometimes. Like Joan Jett with Ronda would be super cool. But the way that they executed that and the way it played off on television and in the crowd was very special.
Let us debut one.
Let us debut what?
A category.
Oh, yes. Crowd of the year. So last year we didn't do this, but I thought it would be good to give the fans a nod. I wanted to give the fans who go to the events and make the events. A crowd can make or break an event. Look at UFC 186. Maybe the most depressing event that I've ever attended because the Montreal crowd just wasn't there. And I think it's not their fault. It just wasn't the right card for them. And it was a card that was kind of decimated, and it was supposed to be Dilshan Bharatt, which wasn't the right fight either, but Rory was supposed to be on the card against Lombard. Didn't happen. Anyway, that made the card very depressing for me. Strikeforce in Cincinnati back in the day, tremendous card, but no one was there. So it kind of ruined it for me. So a crowd can make or break a card. This year, your choice for crowd of the year is?
Easiest one of the whole bunch.
Wow.
Fight Night 63 crowd in Fairfax, Virginia.
That's a tongue-in-cheek award.
That is the best crowd of the year because it produced one of the best moments of 2015.
Yes. It's a good call.
Which was raging out Iaquinta, asking if the crowd was booing him, and it turns out they were, and they were also giving him the middle finger, and he gave it right back to them. Incredible moment. I mean, this award goes to the crowd and Al. It's a joint award. But the crowd at Fairfax, Virginia, for having the gall to boo Al, they get the crowd of the year from me.
Okay, so if if Al doesn't respond the way he responds, and that might be the post-fight interview of the year if you want to do that. We don't have that category. Are they still the crowd of the year?
No, it's a give and take.
Oh,
it's
okay.
a give and take. And they gave, and then they took.
And by the way, this was a Saturday afternoon show in early April, first day of Passover, if my memory serves me correct. This was not exactly like, I mean, you're taking liberties, and I'll accept it.
Excuse me.
I'll accept it because of what they produced. They were a part of the show in that sense. But let's be honest. Not exactly what I think of when I think of the crowd of the year, but I'll take it. My pick is Scotland because they had been banging the door. They had been berating the UFC and in particular Dana White. They had been asking for a debut event. They've been asking for the UFC to come there. They got this new arena, is all good, and they showed up. And it came across on television. They were boisterous. There's moments where fighters are jumping into the stands, and all their heroes won. Joanne Calderwood won, and Robert Whittaker and Stevie Ray and Michael Bisping, UK fighter, wins. Very big and important fight for him. So Scotland to me was a great crowd. I mean, I could have gone to Dublin again. I could have gone to UFC 189 here. There were a couple that came to mind. Sweden was a solid crowd, but Scotland to me was far and away. This was the easiest. This. I mean, I keep saying that about a few, but this was a pretty easy one for me. Others, Manila was a great crowd. Seoul was a great crowd. Mexico, UFC 188, another great crowd. Interesting that it's a lot of the international ones. Boston was actually, remember Boston in January? They showed up when the Patriots are playing in the conference championship. So that was a great crowd. Actually, surprising to me, UFC 184, a great crowd. Weidman Belfort fell off, but man, the way they reacted to Ronda, it was a packed crowd, a lot of celebrities there. It felt like a big deal. So LA UFC 184 deserves a mention as well. Any for you? Any more?
No, I mean, it's tough. I don't get to go to all the shows, so it's tough for me to kind of really gauge that. But I thought this was...
I'm surprised you're not picking Glory in Oklahoma or something, some
How dare
casino.
You? That was not this year. And also, it's not MMA. But
fair enough.
The Amsterdam show would damn sure be up there.
Yes. Okay, let's move along to Feel Good Story of the Year, one of my favorite categories. Last year, I picked young Jake Stone King, who attended UFC 171. Beautiful story. I won't go over it again, but if you want to learn more about him and his story, just Google Jake Stone King. So that was my pick for Feel Good Story of the Year. What was yours?
My feel-good moment was... it was a tie, actually. I had two. I cheated, but it was a tie because I couldn't pick between Justin Wren coming back to MMA.
Wait. You last year. I'm asking.
We didn't do this last year.
Yeah. We had Feel Good Story last year.
No, we didn't do it.
I just told you what my pick was.
Yeah, you might have written it down, but we didn't do it on air.
Strange. Okay.
My pick was this year. Sorry. This year was Justin Wren coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And tied with Mark Munoz leaving. So it was one guy coming in and one guy coming out.
You can't pick two.
It was a tie. I couldn't.
No, I had a lot of tough decisions to make, and you got to pick one.
No.
Who's your
tie.
pick? No ties.
Tie.
BS. That's a cop out.
Tie.
Especially for this award. Okay. My feel good moment of the year: Cody Garbrandt walking out with young Maddox Maple at UFC 189. We've talked to Cody about this on the show. Young man, they both made a deal. You beat cancer, I'll make it to the UFC, and when I get there, you're coming out with me. So that's just beautiful stuff. And then I got to interview them afterwards together for FS1. Cody walking out with Maddox Maple was just amazing. UFC 189 against Enrique Briones. Honorable mention, Mark Munoz. As yours are good as well, but you got to pick one.
Tied.
Feel good moment of the year. Cody Garbrandt, Maddox Maple. All right. Let's move along to Story of the Year. Now, remember how I kept saying that there were easy ones? This might have been my toughest one. Story of the Year. Last year, I picked the UFC's expanded schedule, plus the rash of injuries that they had to deal with, made for a very bad year for the UFC. What was your pick?
My pick last year was the rise of Conor McGregor.
Interesting. What's your pick this year?
My pick this year is the fall of UFC champions.
Interesting.
Because I feel like it would be disingenuous to kind of pick one. I feel like this encapsulates it very nicely. One of the big story of 2015, John Jones was stripped of his belt. Cain Velasquez dropped his belt. Chris Weidman dropped his belt. Anthony Pettis dropped his belt. Jose Aldo dropped his belt. And Ronda Rousey dropped their belt. All in 1 year's time. So at this time, now, having said all that, at this time last year, I said Conor McGregor's rise was the story of the year. And in this year, that rise continued, as did Ronda Rousey's. So we saw, two champions at about the highest you can get. Potentially, Conor McGregor could continue to ascend. And at the same time, we saw all these champions fall. So I thought it was just an interesting year, and especially when we come to feel that a lot of the champions in the UFC are invincible. People talk about how long they're going to reign and how they'll never be beaten. In 2015 alone, we saw a litany of champions dethroned. So I think that overall encapsulates a lot of stories, but that was the singular story for this year, the fall of UFC champions.
So that's a good one. Actually didn't even make my honorable mentions. There was so much here. And this is what made 2015 one of the most interesting years to cover the sport and the best years. And it was just unbelievable when you think about every month something massive. And that's what made the MMA Beat in particular a lot of fun to do as well. These are my honorable mentions first. Reebok, I mean, we could spend a whole show just on their year and their inclusion in the sport and their involvement in the sport. But just the beginning of the Reebok era, gigantic. The beginning of the USADA era. I mean, these are things that we're going to be talking about for years and years to come. These two stories in particular changed the face of the UFC, the shape of the UFC, the future of the UFC, changed the sport, changes the way fighters decide where they want to fight. I mean, just gigantic. Others, the rise and fall of Ronda Rousey, which kind of goes under your umbrella, the rise of Conor McGregor and the World Tour, playing off of that. World Tour was just an amazing execution by the UFC and putting it all together, and how it culminated in Dublin with stealing the belt. That was amazing. And playing off my pick last year, the UFC rebounding from maybe their worst year to having their best year. Incredible turnaround for the UFC. That was a huge story. The return of Kimbo Slice in Bellator, their best ratings, and finally doing that Ken Shamrock fight. The potential breakup of Team Alpha Male and the definite breakup of TJ Dillashaw and Team Alpha Male was a very big deal. So those are all big stories. But to me, and one more. This one was kind of tied to my final pick, but it's not. The fall of John Jones and then his comeback, which will actually play out this year. That could be the winner right there, the fall of John Jones.
Sure.
Huge. And what happened and him getting arrested and going to jail briefly, it was mind-numbing. It was surreal. But and I hate to do this, but there was one story that kept coming up throughout the year, and they're even tied to some of these. And it's the madness that is the Nevada Athletic Commission. If they don't deserve that applause. Take that applause away. But I hate to say it, when you go back to January, right, and you see John Jones, it comes out that he got busted for cocaine when he shouldn't have been tested, and then he has to go and do these interviews and stuff like that. Who was to blame there? The Nevada Athletic Commission. And then Anderson Silva gets popped, and of course later on we have months later his hearing. That was under the Nevada Athletic Commission. Nick Diaz. What more can you say? That could be the winner. But that was because of the Nevada Athletic Commission and what they done to him. And hopefully they will fix this sooner rather than later. I hear that business is picking up there, by the way. Again, Nevada Athletic Commission. Nevada coming out with their new guidelines, punishments, and not even adhering to them with the Nick Diaz situation. And completely ignoring the USADA stuff. Husimar Palhares being completely inconsistent there. And then refereeing and judging. It always seems to come back to the Nevada Athletic Commission. So to me, the story of the year, and it's cheating a little bit, but when I started to think about what happened to Jones initially, what happened to Nick Diaz, what happened to Anderson Silva, Hector Lombard, and that was a good thing, but it just kept feeling like the Nevada Athletic Commission was a part of the biggest stories of the year. So story of the year, Nevada Athletic Commission, and how they became these figures on Fight Pass, and it's just, and I hate to do it, but I got to. It just kept coming back to Nevada, the fight capital of the world. Kept coming back to them. You feel me?
I feel you. You mentioned a ton of storylines that are going to play out. that played out last year and will continue to play out.
I actually hate this one because I feel like Reebok and USADA and Diaz on his own and Jones on his own, his two stories, Anderson, I mean, those can all win. But it just felt like the Nevada Athletic Commission kept coming back and rearing its ugly head. Sure. And by the way, funny thing, I see them from time to time at the events. None of them say hello to me anymore.
Well, you've been hard at work.
Yeah, hard at work. Okay, let's move along. That's the story of the year. What a year it has been. What a year. It's just been an amazing year to cover MMA. Can't imagine how they top it in 2016 as a sport. I mean, we are so lucky. I know you're not a journalist, but you do a show. I am. And I know some people don't like to believe that, but I have a piece of paper that says I'm actually a journalist from Syracuse University.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's. I'll print it for you. The amount of stories that come out, like big, earth-shattering stories, just amazing. I feel like we're very lucky to be covering this sport. Okay, let's move along to moment of the year. What was the moment that defined 2015?
You gave it up earlier. When you talked to Holly. For me, it was the moment Holly Holm knocked out Ronda Rousey.
Yes.
I feel like there's almost no other choice for this. It was one of the easier ones just because simply the world was one way. Then she knocked out Ronda Rousey and the world was a completely different way. In fact, an opposite way, where Ronda Rousey was, a punching bag and she was at the bottom when she was formerly at the top, and people couldn't wait for that opportunity. And Holly Holm was the plucky underdog and then became the invincible champion. No swing of momentum happened in a greater way in 2015 than Holly Holm knocking out Ronda Rousey. It was the moment of the year.
By the way, Ally Quinta chiming in on Twitter. You see that?
Yep, Jabroni
crowd of the year. What a guy, Ally Quinta. Gotta love him. A great pick. And honestly, did I say this already? Much like story of the year, moment of the year is very, very hard because Conor winning is a very big deal. And DC winning the belt, what a moment that was. And the post-fight interview was fantastic. Holly's knockout is a moment in its own right. Holly's reaction to the knockout and the win and the way she was like, look at me, world. You know, that moment she's crying. That was a great moment. UFC 189 and Conor's reaction to winning. And in particular, I'm thinking of snapshots here. Like if I could tell someone this is 2015, jumping on the cage and embracing John Kavanagh and then embracing his family and how emotional he was backstage. Even remember that moment with Cormier going backstage after he lost to Jones and crying, and even him at the press conference. That was a year ago. So I mean, that was an amazing moment. Nick Diaz lying down in the middle of the cage. I mean, what a moment! What a year it was. The UFC 189 weigh-ins, and in particular that picture of Conor going like this, flexing from his back and looking out on the people. But in the end, I picked one moment, and I'm thinking of a snapshot here. I'm thinking of a moment where I was just like, holy shit. These people are on a completely different level than me. I will never be able to top this. I will never be able to be like this. They have something in them that I don't have. This is, if I could show someone why I love this sport, this is a surreal moment. This is a moment that I feel like I'll remember forever. It was the moment right at the end of the fourth round, Robbie Lawler, Rory McDonald, when they just stood there.
Sure.
And looked at each other. And no one was going to move. And they had just been beating each other, and they were going to the final round, and Rory was on the cusp of maybe becoming a champion. It didn't end up, but like that moment, and John McCarthy has to get between them. Like these two guys wanted to keep going, and they were literally going to go until they could not go anymore, and that's what happened to Rory McDonald. So I could have picked any of those other moments I just mentioned. I went with that one because it's my fight of the year, and it's just one, like, there are great fights, and like what happened with Robbie and Carlos, where they held hands. That picture is iconic, and that might be my moment of the year for next year. But those two guys staring at each other was just like, what in the world? These guys are zombies. They're literally zombies. They're inhuman, unbelievable. So that's my moment of the year.
Great moment.
Okay. Now let's look ahead to 2016. 3 more to go, and they're not so much awards, but it's fun to look ahead. Last year we said our story to watch in 2015 was, can the UFC rebound? And hey, they rebounded. So I was sort of right there. I mean, that was a story, and they rebounded more so than ever before. They had their greatest year ever. What was your story to watch?
My story was the MMA careers of Brock Lesnar and CM Punk. What's the status? What are we going to see in 2015? And not
Nothing.
much of anything.
Nothing. Brock
Not the
Lesnar.
story of the year for 2015.
Wow. Okay. That was a swing and a miss. Story to watch in 2016. What is it?
The greatest of all time is back.
GSP.
Incorrect.
Oh.
Jonathan Jones.
Oh.
The greatest of all time is back. And in any other sport, this would be celebrated in a remarkable way. And now John Jones, having taken some time off, is coming back. And I think the people who he's going up against are in big trouble. And I think he's going to have a big year in 2016. And I think this is the biggest story of 2016. The moment he steps into that octagon, all hell is going to break loose.
And this coming from an unabashed Cormier lover.
I love Daniel Cormier. But make no mistake about it, John Jones is the best light heavyweight right now. He's the best light heavyweight ever, and I think he's the best fighter ever. And him returning in his prime to this sport is the story of 2016. All the other stuff is window dressing for him returning.
So others that's a great one. New York is obviously one. The potential return of GSP, CM Punk's eventual debut. These are all great ones. But to me, the story to watch in 2016 is free agency in MMA, because this has become a growing trend, especially as of late, tail end of the year. Benson Henderson, Aljamain Sterling, Alistair Overeem in particular. Fighters are going to fight out their contract. And this is good. This is healthy. This is a good part. This is evolution. This is how sports should be. This is not, a fighter turning their back on the UFC or being ungrateful. This is what they should do. And sometimes you gamble and it works. Sometimes you gamble and it doesn't work, and then you kind of have to come back and take a little less than you wanted. But to me, I'm curious who else is going to do this and who else is going to talk about it. Some people like Alistair Overeem didn't want to talk about it. Others like Aljamain wanted to talk about it. Benson didn't really want to talk about it. There was another one that I think I'm forgetting. That was a high-profile one. But I know of others that are about to come up. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see, does one of them go sign with Bellator? And does that start the Dan Henderson trend, the snowball effect? Will someone go off the grid and go to ONE FC or a World Series of Fighting? What happens? So I think that's a really interesting new story to watch this year. There are a couple here and there, Gilbert Melendez and Dan Henderson, as I mentioned, but never quite like this. And I feel like a lot of guys are starting to talk about playing out their contract and just doing what other athletes do. Fight out your deal, become a free agent, test the market, see how much you're truly worth. It's going to be really interesting to watch. So that's my story to watch in 2016. My fighter of the year for 2015, boy, did I screw up on this one. I said it was going to be Anthony Pettis. That did not, of course, come true. He ended up losing his title in March. Who saw that coming and didn't fight again? He was supposed to fight in July, got injured, is going to be fighting in a matter of days now in Boston, hopefully against Eddie Alvarez. That was my fighter of the year for 2015. I picked that last year. Who was your pick?
One Daniel Cormier, who I picked for 2 years before that as well. 2 years before that as well. Daniel Cormier has been a running tradition for my fighter of the year looking ahead.
Okay, so I mean, you could have made a case that he was. I mean, I know he lost early, but he rebounded with big wins over Rumble Johnson, became champion, and then the Gustafsson fight. So that actually is a solid pick. Who's your pick for this coming year? I
mean, after what I just said, it could be nobody else other than John Jones.
Yeah.
He's coming back, and if we thought he was good before, imagine he just took a year off to rest himself, not due to injuries, cleaned up his life. I can't imagine how good he's going to be. And I'll say this. I think he's got a better chance this year of being a 2-division champion than Conor McGregor does. And that's scary. That's a scary thought. And, man, John Jones is going to come back with a vengeance this year. He's my pick for fighter of the year. Now, obviously, this is a tough one because it all depends on activity. Some guys are not going to be as active as others.
Exactly.
Donald Cerrone's always a perennial contender. Guys like that. Robbie Lawler, he just started off the year with a huge win. So it's tough. But I think even if John picks up 2 wins, he's going to be that guy just because we've missed him.
It's a great point. The main thing I was looking for was activity on a big stage. So you got to look at who's fighting, at least 3 times, who's going to be active, who's going to win. So, look, I know he wants to do this. I know he wants to be active, and he's going to be fighting in big fights. So I had to go with Conor again. I just feel like he's going to be really active. Can we get
some applause, please?
Yes. There it is. I just feel like he's going to be very active this year. And so it might be an easy one, but I got to keep riding that train. My pick for 2016 Fighter of the Year is Conor McGregor. Okay, last category, and it's a personal one for us. It's who's the guest that you want to hear from the most in 2015? My pick last year?
No,
Lorenzo?
in 2016.
Oh, yes. Well, yes, 2016. My pick for last year was Lorenzo Fertitta. And I struck out on that one. I tried to get him episode 300, wanted nothing to do with it. So I didn't get him. Still the one guest that is eluding us. Who was your pick?
My pick was one Bjorn Rebney.
Oh, interesting. Okay. We didn't get him either. So we struck out on both. Who's your pick for this year?
My pick is one Bjorn Rebney.
Wow, me too. I didn't even remember. I did not even
remember that you're stealing my pick right now?
No, I didn't remember that you were actually on that bandwagon since last year.
Yes, I was. And the Joanna champion bandwagon as well. So obviously
Mexico.
The Mexico tweet. We need to know what's going on. And I have some other ones, or do you want to weigh in on Bjorn first?
No, go ahead.
Some other ones that I broke them into a few categories. One, ones that we've seen many times, but are some of my personal favorites. Al Iaquinta, Will Brooks, Tyron Woodley.
We got those.
Dominic Cruz. Yeah, but I'd like to see them more. I'd like to see them
fair enough.
throughout 2015, Conor McGregor. Now, some that we haven't seen in a while. Here's a list.
Yeah.
Jose Aldo, Josh Koscheck, Vanderlei Silva, King Mo. Did you know that we didn't have King Mo on in 2015?
You're kidding. King Mo was actually supposed to be on this week.
I'd love to have King Mo back.
We didn't have him on once?
Yeah, I checked into it. Fedor Emelianenko.
Yes.
Gina Carano.
Yes.
Jonathan Brookins. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I want to see what the hell's going on with that guy.
Yes.
Andre Drummond, proven himself to be an MMA fan. We've had NBA players before.
Yes, good one.
Let's get Andre Drummond. The Rock. I think that'd be an interesting one.
Almost had him.
Mauro Ranallo and Bas Rutten.
Yes.
And then Prebeck, who disappeared.
Yes. That's a great one. Wow, you killed it on this one.
That's the list.
Way to end strong. I got nothing to add to that. I did pick Bjorn just because I find it fascinating that not a single person has talked to him. He hasn't done any interviews, and just wow, what a story to be told there. But I agree with every single other choice that you just mentioned. Wow, that was a great list.
Mexico.
And he was saying that because of the World Cup, but it's still just funny. One of these days, if we ever go back to Mexico, I have to do a video of just asking the locals there if they've seen or heard of him. So there it is. Our awards, 2015. That was a lot of fun.
There we go.
Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for following along. Do we have any questions? We have 3 minutes left. Should we address anything else?
Yeah, let's do some questions.
Let's do some questions. Quick.
Just tweet out our final award. Okay.
Do you think that Bjorn Rebney is actually still on Twitter and we'll see us talk about him?
Oh, of course. He's down there in Mexico looking at it.
Yeah, right.
Should Conda get an immediate rematch?
Ooh,
Plain and simple.
If all options are on the table?
All options are on the table. Woodley, Hendricks, do they get a title shot?
GSP. It has to be GSP. Well, because here's the thing. Let's not forget about one thing. As great as that fight was, as amazing as that fight was, as much as I think Condit won the fight, and you think so as well, right?
I do.
Third round you give to him.
I do.
He did skip over a few people, right? In particular, Tyron Woodley. So, okay, he had his chance, and the Nevada Athletic Commission doesn't put the right people in. Again, rearing its ugly head. But if GSP is available, GSP versus Robbie Lawler is a gigantic fight. And I actually disagree with Rory. GSP's coming back for a belt. He's not coming back to just be, some guy fighting in quote-unquote super fights.
Now, do you think the timeline for that makes sense, though? Is it not possible for Condit to get that rematch and then GSP fight the winner of that?
Well, first of all, I mean, that was quite the beating, so when does he come back? And I think they need something big for UFC 200. If you look at the way things are going, I don't know if the stars are aligning just yet. So who's there, ready, willing, not going to fight before then? The return of GSP is UFC 200 worthy.
Wow.
So if all options are available, then I go with GSP.
We had some controversial decisions on Saturday. Soto versus Tanaka, Ansarov versus Kish,
Nevada
Noak
Athletic
versus
Commission, Nevada
Morono,
Athletic Commission, Nevada Athletic.
Larkin versus Tumanov, and of course Lawler versus Condit. What did you think of the judging this weekend?
Oh, can I just add something? Have you noticed that the judging really hasn't been a big issue as of late? Florida, this, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But when we come back to Nevada, look what happens. Because they keep putting these dinosaurs who know nothing about MMA or these unqualified people. It's just amazing. So, yeah. What do you expect? Nevada Athletic Commission.
Stipe's performance. Is he next in line for the title shot? What do you think of that?
Man.
Should he leap over an Overeem? What's the
I couldn't
thoughts
help
on
but
that?
think of Frankie Edgar during that whole exchange because I could see, as Mark mentioned, I could see them being like, look, Overeem, we want to re-sign you. What do we got to do? I want a title shot. Okay. I could see it, and he certainly is deserving of it given, a win over JDS. So, man, believe it when I see it. That's what I'll say.
Dustin Poirier and Joe Duffy, the
Yes.
incredible performance by him, did great on Fight Pass. I think Dana said that it was the most watched fight ever on Fight Pass. A, what do you do with Dustin? And B, do you think they'll do more fights like this on Fight Pass?
Okay, so to answer the second part first, yes. I mean, just look at Anderson Silva fighting Michael Bisping. We haven't had a chance to talk about that. That was announced over the break. That's on Fight Pass.
Yeah.
Wow. Unbelievable. And just look at, Paige and Sage and that event. So I actually think it makes a lot of sense. And if you're already subscribing to Fight Pass, I don't understand why you don't like it, especially if you're a European fan. Like if you're a fan of Joseph Duffy, the fight is happening earlier. You don't have to stay up till 4 a.m. to watch it. I had a couple opportunities this past weekend to speak to Eric Winter, who's a guy I'd love to have on this show, who's the new head of Fight Pass. They hired him from Yahoo. And he is a brilliant mind, and this guy gets it. I mean, the stuff that he was telling me, I was just blown away, and his goals and his aspirations for 2015. Ant Evans, another guy who I love, who works over there as part of that team, and they have some big things. I mean, this looking for a fight show that is actually coming out today on Fight Pass. This episode, without giving away too much, you get a glimpse of potentially the man who will be the first to face CM Punk in his UFC debut, and another potential sign. I mean, it's just the way they're doing it is great. My man Rory Karp is producing that for First Row Films. What they're doing with Fight Pass is ahead of the game. It's smart. It's everything that you should be doing with a platform like this. It's not putting these lower tier events. So you take some gambles here and there. You ruffle some feathers here and there with your partners, but to me, it's very smart what they're doing. So I do see this becoming a trend, and I also see bigger fights being put there, like Fight Pass prelim headliner. That's going to become a thing. So it's going to be that's another story to watch that we didn't mention. The rise of Fight Pass and how much stock they put in it, because I think they're going to put a lot.
What about what's next for Dustin?
Oh, Dustin. Well,
that guy.
He's got a shattered nose. Credit to him for continuing to fight and sticking around to do interviews. Mazel tov to him and his wife on the news that they're going to be parents. That's beautiful. Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, he looks great at 155. Clearly, that was
great.
The right move for him.
Love the confidence. So young, too. Let me look at the rankings here very quickly. Man, Iaquinta's got some time, but maybe that would be an interesting one, right? 10 against 12?
I love it.
Or Dariush? Those are some that come to mind.
There's a lot of options
Evan
at
Dunham?
lightweight.
Evan Dunham?
Yeah, lots of stuff opened up with that move, so I love that. Okay. What about Duffy? With this loss, does that end any of the Conor McGregor shine?
No. As we've said before, a loss doesn't mean as much. You win 1 or 2 in a row. It's still a big fight. It's still a fight that means a lot for that particular market.
How many could he lose before it realistically?
A couple. And maybe in a row. But showed heart, and maybe it was a step up too soon. Who knows? But that's still a grudge match. And don't forget, Conor could sell anything. And you put that fight in Dublin, that's a big deal.
And with the idea of him possibly making a move to 155, maybe he doesn't get a title fight first. Maybe he faces Duffy.
He will not face Duffy in his first fight. That's obvious.
And, well, at some point faces Duffy maybe. And then fights for a title.
It definitely stunts it, but I don't think it kills it.
What about the Fedor fight? I think you covered this a little bit with Mark. You weren't.
What did you think of it?
I mean, it was exactly what they promised.
I just didn't feel the need. Like, I went to bed, and I was in Vegas, and I went to bed, and I woke up.
I stayed up and watched it live.
The whole thing?
I watched it both nights.
Both nights? What time did it happen at?
Started at 1 a.m. Eastern.
No, what time did the Fedor fight happen at?
6, I want to say.
What did your wife think of this?
She was up with me.
She watched it too.
Well, she works till midnight, so she was up with me. It was us watching.
Would you watch the stream and you put on your TV?
Yeah.
It just I had no.
I mean,
I had no interest.
I had no expectation going in. I mean, it was going to be what it was going to be.
It was fun. It was
King
nostalgic.
Mo was,
I get it. Yeah.
As you said, was the story of it, and that was awesome.
That was awesome.
That was awesome to watch.
Actually, the story of that thing was that how Bellator, they came out looking good. You know,
all their fighters did really well.
Yeah, Brennan Ward as well. So.
As did Bob Sapp, friend of the show.
There is a place for Ryzen, and I hope they succeed. And it's just fun. It's nostalgic. The ring, the showmanship, the walkouts, the presentation. It's fantastic. There's a special place. I'm not hating on it, but I'll give him a pass. Like, it's great. Have him back. Showcase. It lost in the ratings. It lost in the ratings to Kid Yamamoto, but there's a place for it. But I don't want to see him just fight nobodies. I mean, could you imagine here in the States if anyone of his stature fought someone who's 2-0? Come on. That's all. I just want to see where he's at because I actually think that he could be a player.
To be fair, he had an extensive kickboxing career. 2-0 in MMA.
Yeah. Whatever.
Look, I'm not claiming it wasn't a squash match, but what I'm claiming is that let's not act like, they threw him in there with somebody who was straight off the streets.
Fine. Fair enough. And it was fun to see him again and the walkout and everything. Loved it.
But again, it was a squash match. No doubt about it. But the rest of that card was fun. King Mo, that wasn't a squash match. That tournament was tough.
I have nothing bad to say. I even liked the Gabby thing. It was fun. I have nothing bad to say.
Well, yeah, that's another one. They were evenly matched there. They were both low on experience. So it wasn't like, somebody was being fed to a lion. Cerrone at welterweight. What are your thoughts on that?
I wonder if it's too soon, I know he didn't take a lot of damage, but that's a quick turnaround.
He's lost to Dos Anjos twice, though.
Yeah. Oh, actually, here's a little plug. I did an interview with Cerrone. He didn't do much media, but that's going to air this weekend. This week. At least I think it is on UFC Tonight. So Donovan, if you're listening, you better air that because I don't want to sound stupid. And he talks about the line of thinking and, if he's going to stay there. So I don't want to give too much away. But I just wonder if it's too soon. But then you have to think, is Donald Cerrone like the best medicine for him coming off a loss is just fight again?
Yep.
So I can't even rationalize it because I'm not really cut from the same cloth as him.
And his WEC brother, Benson Henderson, did a similar thing.
Yeah, so maybe it's not too soon. He does have a month and a half. So what the hell do I know? It's a fun fight. It wasn't their first choice for that, obviously, because he just fought and he could have been champion. But I don't hate it for a fight night. What do you think of it?
I think, the thing with Donald Cerrone is I legitimately believe he doesn't give a shit about the belt. I legitimately believe he wants to stay active. If he's fighting the best in the world, whether it's for a belt or not, it's all the same to him. Get paid, hang out on the ranch, do water sports, whatever else. So, cool. Let's get him some more fights.
I will say this. I think the IV comes into play here. He can't use the IV. He was using it before. He has a legitimate intestine injury, got a huge scar. Now he doesn't have to worry about that as much. So maybe, he's lost twice to the champion. So fresh coat of paint, make a run at 170, Benson Henderson playbook. Why not?
We make New Year's resolutions. Perhaps it's getting in shape or smoking. What resolution should the sport of MMA as a whole make?
Man, that's a tough one. It's a good category. Look, we could talk about business stuff. We could talk about judging even. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is health and safety. And I still feel like weight cutting is an issue. And is banning the IV the right thing? I don't know. But I just feel like we're one decision here or there away from something really bad happening.
Well,
so
it
that's
already
gotta be
happened in ONE FC.
No, I'm talking UFC, biggest stage, because God is my witness. If something happened like that in the UFC, I mean, the pitchforks would come out.
Sure.
We'd all be in trouble. But absolutely, I don't want to diminish that. I don't want to, devalue it. What happened there is absolute senseless tragedy and shouldn't have happened. And I'm happy that ONE FC is at least trying to fix this. I shouldn't have even gone into that. So that's got to be it, right?
100% agree.
Yeah.
Fighter safety, the weight cuts need to stop. And credit to ONE FC for taking swift and drastic action. Now, I don't know how practical it will be, how that will actually, turn out for them. I'm sure they're going to lose a lot of fights if they stick to it, letter of the law. But taking steps in the right direction is how this change comes about, and credit to ONE FC for doing that.
At least trying, yeah.
At least giving it a shot. I mean, what else can we hope for? A few from Twitter, and then we're out of here.
All right.
What needs to be done with MMA scoring? It's not just a Nevada thing. It happens all over. What do we need to do? Is the 10-9 system outdated?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
I think that's it. Now, I don't know if the Pride way works because that's so subjective. Okay, but let me ask you this. You thought Condit won, right?
I did.
If it was Pride, who wins?
Tough, but I guess... I mean, that's also tough, but I guess I'd say Lawler.
So me too, but it shouldn't be, I guess, because I don't know what the right answer is, but I do lean towards Lawler. But that just proves that the Pride way doesn't work either, because that's okay, look, a fight, it starts and then it ends, and usually the way it ends is, okay, that guy's the winner of the fight. That's the way it was back in the, in the playground. So that should be the general way of thinking. However, if it's so close toward the end, what do you do?
Well, I think one thing is, when we were watching Ryzen, the 10-minute first round is really a good thing, in my opinion.
God, that's asking for a lot.
I love that. I thought it really made a difference, and it really, it made it a lot easier to determine the winners from the losers.
Yeah, I see your point, but I don't see that ever. That's
I'm not
a whole
saying
other
that
revolution.
that's realistic to be implemented, but it's a thought. It's better than getting bad 10-9 rounds.
10-9 system doesn't work. I'll tell you what does work, and what I mean by this is I hear a lot of people saying, to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. But that's wrong. That's 100% wrong. When a fight is over, the judges don't think, okay, did he do enough to be the champ?
Well, that's pride.
Yeah, but here we're scoring round, and I'm not necessarily against that. I just don't like the way they get to that decision. You know what I mean? I'm not against saying look, here's a fight, 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 5 fights within one fight. And who won, every 5 minutes. I'm not against that. I just don't like the way they come to that decision. I feel like there's got to be a better way. And I've thrown out points here or there. There just has to be a better way to decide who wins. This system doesn't work. The Pride system works to a degree, but I also think it won't work because you'll get people who don't know what they're looking for. So that's a whole other show.
Yeah,
but to answer the question, it's wrong, and it's high time that they fix it.
Educating judges is one step.
Yeah, and the other thing that I brought up multiple times today, judges make nothing. So there's really no incentive to get better or to find the best or for people to want to do it. How could guys who are making peanuts decide the fate of multi-million-dollar fights? It doesn't equate. After
Conor McGregor, is Dominic Cruz the best trash talker in MMA?
Wow.
He may even be better than Conor McGregor, in your opinion. Is he?
It's a different kind of trash talk. He's more cerebral. He tries to get under your skin in a different kind of way, like he tries to nag you or the way he argues a point, like when Dillashaw's like, I'm going to knock you out, but how? Tell me how. It's a different kind of way, and it's almost not fair to compare the two, but he is tremendous.
I think one of the big differences is Conor McGregor talks about himself. He pumps himself up to the highest degree, and that by association makes you lower than him by pumping himself up. Dominic Cruz is ruthless. He's going to tell you why you suck rather than just pumping himself up. He's going to pump himself up, but he's also going to tell you why you're the worst.
Yeah, make you start doubting yourself.
Which really is an aggressive and effective way to break somebody down. I felt bad for TJ Dillashaw there, but at the same time, it can be a bit grating for the person obviously involved, but also the fans. Whereas Conor McGregor's is a lot more lighthearted. It's a lot more showy. Dominic Cruz can rub people the wrong way. Personally, I think it's amazing, and I think he really is underrated in that department. But I think this fight with TJ Dillashaw is going to make people see that he's the real deal when it comes to trash talk.
So it is very entertaining, and he's really come into his own as a personality. I remember doing the Versus shows with him, and he showed up, and he didn't really know what he was doing. He's really turned into a great analyst, a great mind, great trash talker. But this, and we sometimes throw this out when it's unnecessary. This is a legacy fight for Dominic Cruz in the sense that he has put it all on the line. He is claiming that this guy copied him, that this guy has been, the fake champion, all that. He's trying to discredit him and his coach, and it's an alpha male thing, even though he's still, he's no longer with alpha male TJ. This is a legacy fight. If he falls short, the way we remember Dominic Cruz won't be the same, in my opinion. He has to win this fight because of everything that he has said. So it's all well and good. Let's see how he does in Boston.
This is our last thing. We mentioned Juliana Pena. Is there any more info about the UFC and her interaction after being charged with assault?
So I want to be I want to be responsible here. I have talked to some people about it, but it was nothing on the record and it wasn't in official capacity as far as the UFC is concerned. So I will look into that. Give me a mulligan on that one and try to get some kind of statement. That one sort of flew under the radar. I don't know if it was because of the holidays or whatever, but I know she's okay. And I actually did text with her, and she said she was okay. But I don't have an official statement from the UFC as far as what they're going to do, if anything.
That's it. How about 2015, huh?
How about 2015? Yes. Why did that person write thanks Ronda? Is that their name or?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, thanks. See, thanks, period, Ronda.
Oh, it's very rare for someone to actually sign.
And also,
tweet.
that's the classic MMA fan spelling of Ronda.
Yes.
With the H that came out of nowhere.
And Connor with two N's.
Sure.
Why do people mess that up so much? Anyway, what a year. Great job on the awards. Thanks to the guys in the back as well for the applause. One more applause.
Come on. Uh-oh.
There it is. You can hit my music. A great I mean, look, if this year is going to be judged, on the performances of both Frankie Edgar and Tyron Woodley, we are in store for a potentially great year, or it's all downhill from here, because those were tremendous interviews. I mean, those guys brought it, and the right kind of guys to start things off, because they got a bit of a chip on their shoulder. They want to get something off their chest. They feel like they're being wronged or potentially wrong. So that was fantastic stuff. Love doing the awards, but it is time to put 2015 to bed. Perhaps the best year in the history of the sport, perhaps the best year in the history of the show, perhaps the best year in the history of MMAfighting.com. A great year all in all. And by the way, thank you to the good people over at the World MMA Awards, Fighters Only, for not only nominating MMAfighting.com and myself, but this show for the first time. So if you're interested in voting for us, go to worldmmaawards.com and do that. I really appreciate that. Very nice, very kind to them. And if we win, New York Rick is going to fly out and get the award. Actually, we won't even know. Maybe he'll fly out next year to get the second award. Who knows? I'm just very excited that we got nominated. Anyway, I want to thank Frankie Edgar for stopping by. I want to thank Tyron Woodley for stopping by. I want to thank Mark Ramundi for stopping by as well. And Holly Holm. Wow, so great to have the female fighter of the year on the program. And she got emotional, and that got me emotional, and it was just a lot of emotion. But this was a great way to start the year. Thank you to all of you. I missed you. Thanks for watching our Best Stuff shows. Thanks for asking where we were, where we've been. But we're back, baby. See you next week. Same time and place. Until then, I say peace. Somebody else.